Chosen one, something is happening right now that cannot wait. Not tomorrow, not after you finish whatever else was pulling at your attention. Right now, at this exact moment. The fact that you are here, drawn to this message above everything else, competing for your time, is not an accident, and it is not random. Something older than your understanding arranged this. A wisdom that moves beneath the surface of what you can see coordinated the specific moment your eyes landed here, because what is about to happen in your life can no longer afford to be delayed by your own uncertainty about whether this message is meant for you. It is meant for you. Everything about the way you arrived here confirms it, and what I am about to say will confirm it further, because truth resonates in a way that nothing fabricated can replicate. There is an emergency, and I need you to understand what I mean by that word before you hear anything else, because the emergency is not the kind that comes with sirens and panic. The emergency is quieter than that and far more serious. The emergency is the arrival of a moment that has been assembling for longer than you can fully account for. A moment where everything that was built in the long and often painful silence of your preparation is now standing at the edge of expression, waiting for you to be ready. Not waiting any longer, waiting now. And the emergency is that you are ready, and you do not fully know it yet. You have been so deep in the preparation that you have not noticed. The preparation is complete. You have been feeling something, an urgency that does not have a clean name, a pressure in your chest that rises when you sit still long enough to actually feel it. A voice, not quite audible and not quite absent, that moves through your quieter moments and says something is coming, something is shifting. Something about your life is on the verge of a change so complete that the person you are right now will barely recognize the person you are about to become. You have felt this before. And the honest truth is that you have also been disappointed before. You have stood at what felt like the edge of everything and watched the moment dissolve into more waiting, more silence. More of the same ordinary day arriving like it has no awareness of the destiny that was supposed to be moving through it. I know what that has cost you. Not just the time and not just the opportunities that appeared to pass while you remained in the same season. I mean the internal cost, the quiet erosion of certainty, the way hope, when it is repeatedly stretched and not answered, begins to feel almost dangerous, as if hoping too much is a form of foolishness, as if the people who walk with that quiet confidence of the genuinely called were somehow operating under a delusion that you can no longer afford. And in the most honest hours, in the spaces between sleep and waking, you have wondered whether the door was ever truly open for you, whether the calling was real, whether you imagined the whole thing. I want to speak directly into that wondering, because it deserves a direct answer. You did not imagine it. The calling is real, the door is open, and what feels like lateness is actually the final compression before everything launches. Think about what happens to a spring before it releases. It does not look powerful in that compressed state. It looks small. It looks held down. It looks as if nothing is happening, and nothing is moving, and nothing will ever move. But everything is happening. The tension that looks like stagnation is the tension that makes the launch possible. What you have been experiencing, this long season of waiting, of preparation that felt like punishment, of being held when you wanted to be released, has not been wasted. Every single day of it has been building something in you that cannot be built any other way. And that something is about to matter more than anything that came before it. There are certain people listening to this right now who are going to recognize something in what I am about to describe. And if you are one of them, I want you to pay attention to what happens in your body as I do. I want you to notice whether something shifts, whether something stirs, whether you recognize the person I am about to describe. You wake up some mornings and there is a weight that has no specific source. Not sadness exactly, and not despair exactly. Something closer to a kind of suspended anticipation that has been held for so long it has started to feel like its permanent condition. You go through your day with a competence that others admire. You move with a faithfulness that you maintain even when the results do not follow. And yet there is always this undercurrent, this awareness that the version of you who is waking up and working and trying and persisting is not yet the version that is supposed to be here. Not yet the version that was promised. Not yet the version that you can feel in your most honest moments is the real one. You look at people who seem to have arrived, people who seem to be living in the fullness of what they were made for, and you do not feel bitter about it exactly, but you feel something. A recognition that stings a little, because you know, in the part of you that does not lie to yourself, that you were made for that too, that what you see in them is not a ceiling for you. It is a mirror of what is supposed to be yours. And something about the gap between that knowing and your current reality has been making the waiting unbearable in a way that is getting harder to sustain. You have prayed, you have believed, you have declared things out loud in empty rooms. You have written things in journals that felt embarrassing to read back in the clear light of morning. You have stood at the edge of something so many times that you have started to wonder if standing at edges is simply what your life looks like, if the view from the threshold is all you will ever have access to. And you have wondered, in your most private moments, whether something happened to you, whether something that was supposed to activate in you simply never did. Whether there is a version of your mind, a version of your capacity, a version of your mental reach and creative force and receptive clarity that has been trying to wake up and simply cannot find the mechanism. Whether something essential to the full operation of who you are has been running on a fraction of its power for so long that the fraction has started to feel like the full picture. I want to stay with that question for a moment because it matters more than it might sound like it matters. What if something was taken from you? Not in an abstract sense alone. What if something very specific, something measurable and documented and studied for decades, was removed from your mental capacity by the accumulated weight of passing through a particular kind of world? What if the feeling of running behind your own calling, the feeling of operating below your true ceiling, the feeling that your mind is somehow not fully on, is not a personal failure and not a spiritual deficiency and not a reflection of your worth or your faithfulness or the reality of your calling, but the predictable result of something that happens to nearly every human being who passes through the life the modern world hands us to live? A small group of scientists has been studying exactly this. A doctor in New York who has spent more than 2 decades tracking what happens to human minds when they lose access to something they were born with, something that every child possesses at a level that would astonish you to see the numbers, recently found a way to bring it back. Not partially, fully, and not in a way that requires years of practice or expensive equipment or conditions that most people cannot access. A way that works in 8 minutes a day. I will show you what he found before this message is over. But for now, I need you to hold this as the lantern it is, because what I am about to show you about the nature of your delay, about what has actually been working against your natural capacity all this time, changes everything about what happens next. Because here is the truth about your waiting season that has not been said clearly enough. Your delay was not empty. Every day of it was building something in you that is about to matter more than any of the days that appeared more productive. There are certain qualities that only come from long waiting, a depth of compassion that quick success never produces, a rootedness that rapid arrivals do not possess, a capacity to carry weight that only develops when weight has been carried for an extended time with no immediate relief in sight, a wisdom that the classroom cannot manufacture and that only the wilderness graduates produce. The wilderness is not a punishment. It is the most advanced curriculum available, and you have been enrolled in it for a long time. Think of what a diamond requires to form. Not warmth, not comfort, not the easiest possible conditions. A diamond forms only under conditions of extreme pressure, sustained over an extended period, in the absolute darkness of deep earth, where nothing can see it, and nothing can measure it, and nothing can confirm from the outside that something extraordinary is happening inside. And the thing about diamonds is that when they finally emerge, they carry every bit of that pressure inside them as permanent structure. They are not beautiful despite the process. They are beautiful because of it. Every facet in the finished stone is a record of what it survived. And they are unbreakable in a way that nothing formed under easier conditions can match. You have been in that pressure, and you have been developing a structure that the pressure alone can produce. Something unbreakable is being formed in you, and the formation is nearly complete. I want to talk to you about something that the seasons of waiting almost always produce in people who are genuinely called, because it is one of the most important things to understand before you step into what is coming. Not the strength that the waiting builds, not the depth and the wisdom and the compassion, the thing underneath all of that, the thing that is hardest to admit and easiest to carry quietly without naming it. The delay has produced in many of you a specific kind of self-doubt that is different from ordinary insecurity. It is the self-doubt of someone who has evidence, not imagined evidence. Real, accumulated evidence in the form of years when the breakthrough did not arrive, when the door that seemed to open did not open fully, when the promise that felt so clear in one season seemed to evaporate in the next. That kind of self-doubt does not feel like weakness. It feels like realism. It feels like the honest conclusion of someone who has been paying attention. But it is not realism. It is a story that the delay told about itself. And the delay was never in a position to tell the truth about itself, because the delay could not see past its own length. The delay could not see what was being assembled in the background while it stretched on. The delay could not see the conditions that were not yet ready, the alignments that were not yet in place, the internal formation that was not yet complete. The delay could only say, "This is still happening and I do not know why." And from inside that, the honest mind draws the only conclusion it can draw with the information available to it, which is that something might be wrong. Nothing is wrong. Something is finally right. The specific combination of experiences in your life, the specific shape of the waiting, the particular texture of the pain, the ways that your particular history compressed you and stretched you and asked more of you than felt fair, that combination has produced a specific person with a specific kind of authority, a specific kind of weight in their words, a specific kind of compassion that is not theoretical but earned, a specific kind of rootedness that cannot be performed and cannot be purchased and cannot be developed through any faster process than the one you have been through. And the assignment that is about to become available to you requires exactly that person. Not someone generally good at things, not someone with impressive credentials and a clean record of success. You, the specific person that this specific process has been making. There is a timing to what is unfolding in your life that operates by laws older than the calendar, not the timing of clocks and deadlines and the human schedule of what was supposed to happen when. The timing of something that moves through the deeper current of existence and that arrives not when conditions are convenient, but when conditions are ready. You have been waiting for that timing. And I want to tell you, with everything I have been given to say in this message, that the timing has arrived. Not almost, not close, arrived. The urgency you feel is not the sound of something going wrong. It is the sound of something finally going right. It is the frequency of alignment beginning. It is the signal from the part of you that already knows, that has always known, that the moment you were built for is not decades away and not years away and not even the uncertain future. It is close enough to feel because it is now. Something is moving, chosen one. Something at every level of your reality is rearranging in ways you are only beginning to perceive. The relationships that are quietly shifting, the doors that have been inexplicably opening, the thoughts that are arriving with a clarity you had almost forgotten was possible. The sense that something immense is pressing against the thin membrane between the invisible preparation and the visible expression, and that the pressure has become enough to break through. That is not wishful thinking. That is the recognition of an assembled moment, and you are standing at the center of it. The assignment you carry is not a small one. I want to make that clear before we go any further, because one of the most common failures of genuinely called people in the final approach to their appointed time is to minimize what is being asked of them, to assume that what they are being prepared for is something modest and manageable and scaled to the version of themselves they currently feel like. The assigned future is never scaled to the version you currently feel like. It is scaled to the version the preparation has been making. And the preparation has been making something larger than your current assessment of yourself can hold. Let me speak to the specific weight of what you have been carrying. I want to honor it before I continue, because it deserves to be honored and not simply bypassed on the way to the promise. You have been carrying something real. You have carried it faithfully. You have carried it in seasons when carrying it cost you things that had names, things you grieved and sometimes still grieve. You have carried it in the presence of people who did not understand what you were carrying and could not validate it, and sometimes, with the best intentions, suggested that maybe it was time to put it down. And you did not put it down, not because you were too stubborn to be reasonable, because the knowing that the calling was real was too fundamental to your existence to be surrendered just because the evidence for it was invisible. That faithfulness matters. That choice, repeated in season after season, when it would have been easier and more comfortable to simply let go, that choice has built the infrastructure of your authority. The things you will say to people in your future, the weight those words will carry, the way they will land in hearts that have been exactly where you have been, that weight comes from exactly the history you are standing in right now. The cost of the waiting was real, but the cost was not wasted. Every cent of it has been invested in the formation of the person who is about to walk into the harvest of an enormous and long-prepared calling. And the return on that investment is about to begin. Before this message continues, I need to mark something with you. Something about the specific nature of this threshold that distinguishes it from the other thresholds you have stood at before. Because I know you have been here before. I know you have felt the urgency and the alignment and the sense of imminent breakthrough before. And some of those moments were real moments at real thresholds that something genuine was asking you to step through. And I know that some of those moments dissolved into more of the same. And I know that knowledge lives in you as a protective layer, a learned caution that is not a character flaw but a survival adaptation. The difference this time is not primarily in the feeling. Feelings can be deceived and hope can be manufactured. The difference is in what has assembled in the background of your life during this entire season, in the conditions that have been quietly converging, in the formation that has been occurring in the depths of your character and the depths of your capacity, in the specific neural infrastructure of the person you have become through the process of becoming who you were designed to be. And one of those differences, one of the most specific and most concrete and most documentable differences, is what I am going to show you in the course of this message. It is the piece that most people in your situation do not know. The piece that explains the gap between the calling you can feel and the expression you have not yet been able to sustain. And when you see it, when you understand what has been working against the full operation of your natural capacity, everything about the urgency of this moment becomes clearer. The earth around you knows something is shifting. The relationships that have been quietly rearranging themselves around you in recent months are not coincidences. The ideas that have been arriving with increasing clarity and frequency are not random electrical events in a brain that has lost its direction. The sense of proximity to something enormous, the feeling that the wall between where you are and where you are supposed to be is thinning in a way it has not thinned before, is accurate perception. It is not wishful construction. Your spirit is perceiving a real movement, and the movement is in your favor. But let me go deeper into what I mean by the emergency, because I have said that word, and I have told you it is not about panic, and that is true. But I want to give it the full weight it deserves, because the word is accurate and the weight matters. The emergency is the arrival of a window, not the theoretical future window that the calling always promises, not the someday window that has sustained your faithfulness through seasons when the evidence was poor. The actual window, the open, present, active window of your appointed time. And the nature of windows is that they have an interior. There is a time that is fully inside the window, and a time that is the threshold, and a time that begins to move toward its close. The emergency is the recognition that you are no longer at the approach, you are inside. And what you do inside the window is what determines what comes out of it. This is not a threat, it is a liberation. Because the human mind, left without clear understanding of where it stands in relation to its appointed time, defaults to the assumption that the window is always in the future, always arriving, always approaching but not yet here. And from that position, there is always another reason to wait for more readiness, more certainty, more evidence that the moment is right. But when you understand that the window is now open, not approaching but open, the calculations change. The question is no longer whether to step through. The question is how. And that question is what the rest of this message is designed to answer. I want to paint something for you. I want you to see it with more than your mind. I want you to feel the texture of what I am describing, because abstract truth, truth that stays in the region of concepts and principles, truth that your intellect can process but that never quite makes it into your body and your decisions and your daily orientation. That kind of truth is not the kind that changes lives. Picture yourself in the early hours, the hour before the day demands anything of you. The hour when the mind is still in that liminal space between sleep and full waking, when the defenses are down and the authentic signal has the clearest access to your awareness. In that hour, you have been receiving something. Not every morning, clearly. Not every morning without the interference of the familiar thoughts and concerns that have been your companions through this long season. But in some of those mornings, in the clearest of them, something arrives. A direction, a sense of what is supposed to happen next. A feeling of alignment so clear it almost has a sound, like a key finding its lock in the dark. You have felt that. You may have written it down, or you may have let it live only in the interior, but you have felt it. And then the day begins, and the ordinary machinery of life takes over, and the clear signal of the early morning gets covered by everything else. And by evening the certainty is softer, and by the next week the certainty requires reconstruction. This has been the rhythm of your season. Clear signal, ordinary day covering it. Reconstruction. Clear signal again. And the gap between the signal you receive in the clear hours and the expression you can sustain in the ordinary days is the gap that this message is addressing. Not by urging you to try harder, but by showing you what has been creating that gap and what has been found that closes it. Because the gap is not a matter of effort. It is not a matter of faith quantity. It is not a matter of deserving or worthiness or the strength of your belief. The gap has a specific cause. A documented, measurable, scientifically described cause that has nothing to do with any of the stories you may have told yourself about why the full expression has not yet arrived. And when the cause is addressed at its actual level, the gap closes, not gradually, over years of sustained effort, in a way that people who have experienced it describe as almost startling in its speed and completeness. The cause has to do with the instrument, and I am going to give you the full picture of that when this message arrives at that moment. But first, I need to take you through the truth of your waiting, because the understanding of what happened in the waiting is the foundation on which everything else in this message rests. You have been formed, not finished in the sense of completed, formed in the sense of shaped by experience into something that was not possible before the experience. The person you are right now is not the person who entered the waiting season. You are categorically different, not just wiser or more patient, though you are those things. Different at the level of character, different at the level of the specific texture of your compassion, different at the level of what you are capable of carrying without breaking, different at the level of what you know from the inside about the specific kind of darkness that the people you're calling will serve are living in. That formation is not incidental to your assignment, it is the prerequisite of it. The people you are going to impact, the ones whose lives will be different because of the specific calling you carry, they will not be moved by someone who has arrived at their truth through the easiest path. They will be reached by someone who has been exactly where they are, and who can speak to it not from theory but from interior knowledge. Your waiting season is your most irreplaceable qualification, and the length of it, the specific duration that has felt so unreasonable, is proportional to the depth and breadth of the qualification it has produced. You were not in the wilderness by accident, and you will not leave it empty-handed. The recognition signs of someone who is standing at the threshold of their appointed time, someone who is exactly where you are in this specific moment of their formation, those signs do not always look triumphant. They often look like this. They look like the intensification of urgency without a clear external target. They look like a restlessness that does not respond to ordinary solutions. They look like the feeling that the ordinary categories of your life, the way you have been describing yourself and your situation and your prospects, have started to feel too small for what is actually being assembled in you. Like wearing clothes from several years ago that no longer fit the body that has been growing in the intervening time. The clothes of your old story no longer fit. That is a recognition sign. Another recognition sign is the quality of the ideas that have been arriving, not necessarily their quantity, their quality, the nature of them. The sense that some of what is arriving is coming from a level of insight that your ordinary processing does not easily account for. Moments when the solution to something appears in you with a completeness that surprises your own mind. Moments when you say something that lands in the room differently than you expected. Moments when the thing you have been trying to articulate for months suddenly arrives in the exact words that carry it with full precision. These are not random. They are the signals of a capacity that is attempting to re-emerge, of a natural whole brain operation that the formation has been rebuilding from the inside. The signal is getting through. A third recognition sign is the quality of your relationships in this season. Not necessarily their abundance or their ease, their quality. The sense that the connections that matter are deepening in ways you did not engineer. The sense that certain people have arrived in your life with a timeliness that defies the ordinary logic of how people find each other. The sense that the wrong connections are quietly organizing themselves out, not through drama but through a natural gravitational shift, and that the space being created is being filled by something more aligned with where you are actually going. The landscape of your relational world is being reorganized according to your destination, not your current location. That is a recognition sign. And the fourth recognition sign, the one that is most important for you to receive in this moment, is the fact that you are here. That something in you responded to the pull of this message, that out of everything that was available to your attention today, something directed you here, that the urgency you have been feeling and the specific kind of searching that urgency has been driving led you to a message that is speaking directly to the interior of your actual experience, not to a general audience, to you, to the specific texture of what you have been living in this specific season. That is not algorithmic precision, that is divine appointment. There is a story that I want to bring you into, not the kind of story you hear so many times that it becomes furniture in the room of your spiritual life, something you acknowledge without actually inhabiting. I want you to inhabit this one. I want you to step inside it and feel the specific weight of the experience of this person, because the texture of what they went through carries the exact shape of what you have been living, and the ending of their story is what I want to place before you as the most honest and most grounded picture of where your story is heading. Her name was Esther, and by every visible measure, she was in exactly the wrong position for exactly the wrong kind of assignment. She had not chosen her circumstances. She had not prepared for the specific task that was about to arrive. She was an orphan, raised by a cousin in a land that was not the land of her people, living in a palace that valued her for the least enduring and most fragile of reasons, an attraction that was a precarious form of value in a court of power and political calculation. She was anonymous in the most significant ways, unknown in the corridors where decisions were made, overlooked in the rooms where the real conversations happened. And she was living a life that looked nothing like a life that was about to change the course of history. And then the moment arrived, not in the form of a clear and comfortable directive, not in the form of unmistakable certainty and perfect preparation. It arrived in the form of a terrible situation that had no other solution except for her to step into something that had no guarantee attached to it. Her cousin Mordecai said to her the most important thing anyone had ever said to her in her life. He framed it not as a command, but as a question that she could not escape, no matter which direction she turned. He said, "Who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? For such a time as this." That phrase has been repeated so often in the spaces where people gather around faith that it has started to feel like wallpaper. But I want you to hear it fresh this time, because what Mordecai was saying to Esther was not merely encouraging. He was saying something specific and sobering and foundational. He was saying that every single element of the life that had brought her to this exact position, the orphan status, the displacement, the years in the court of a foreign king, the specific combination of visibility and anonymity that her life contained, every element had been moving in a direction she could not see from inside it. She had not been placed in the palace by luck. The specific combination of everything that had happened to her, including the painful parts and the parts that made no obvious sense, and the parts that looked like accidents of history rather than the fingerprints of a plan, that combination had been assembling a person with a specific kind of courage, a specific kind of wisdom, a specific kind of relationship with a power larger than herself, a specific kind of capacity for exactly the gap that the moment required. And the very thing that had looked most unlike destiny, the very ordinariness and the displacement and the anonymous years in the court, that was the preparation for the destiny. Not in spite of those things, through them, because of them, in a way that no other process could have produced. When Esther went before the king, which was a potentially fatal act under the law of that court, she did not go from a position of perfect confidence. She went from a position where the urgency of the moment had finally become larger than her fear of the outcome. She fasted for 3 days with her people. She prepared as fully as it was possible to prepare for something that preparation alone could not solve. And then she stepped into the throne room of a king who had not called for her. And everything changed, not just for her, for an entire people who had no other representative standing between them and destruction. The door you are standing at right now is not about just you. It never has been. The size of your calling is measured not only by what it does in your life, but by who is waiting on the other side of your obedience. Who is waiting for the version of you that has been formed in the wilderness to walk out of the wilderness and speak from the interior knowledge that only the wilderness produces? The people who need what you carry are not hypothetical. They are real, and they are waiting in ways they may not even have language for yet. The way Esther is, people were waiting, without knowing that someone in the palace was being assembled for exactly this moment. I want to give you something from the original language of the scriptures that Esther inhabited, because there is a concept in that language that translates so poorly into modern English that the translation costs us something important every time we attempt it. And this concept is at the center of why your urgency is real and why your waiting was not punishment. In the original Hebrew, there are 2 fundamentally different words for time, not 2 synonyms, not 2 ways of saying the same thing. 2 entirely separate concepts that modern English collapses into one word, and in that collapse loses something essential. The first word is zeman. This is clock time, calendar time, the kind of time that moves whether or not anything significant is happening inside of it. 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, the mechanical progression of moments along a line that does not bend for anyone. The time that passes while you are in the waiting season. The time that has been accumulating in the years that felt like they should have contained more movement than they contained. Zeman is the kind of time that can feel like your enemy, when the gap between where you are and where you are supposed to be seems to be widening rather than closing. The second word is et, and et is something entirely different. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, when the scripture says, "To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven," the word used for time is et, not zeman. Not the ordinary mechanical progression of hours and days. Et is the appointed time, the divinely set moment, the specific convergence of conditions that makes a particular thing possible that was not possible before that convergence and will not be possible in the same way after it. Et does not move along a calendar. It arrives when everything that needed to be true before it could arrive has finally become true. Et is the moment when the preparation meets the assignment, when the vessel that has been forming is finally shaped well enough to hold what is being prepared to pour into it. When the compression has reached the exact degree that the release requires, when the formation is complete enough for the expression, your life has been operating in zeman, days passing, seasons turning, the ordinary chronological machinery doing what it does regardless. But underneath all of that, in the dimension where divine purpose operates and where calling moves toward expression, something else has been building toward et, your et, the specific appointed time of your specific calling and the reason you feel what you feel right now, the particular quality of urgency that has been building, the sense of proximity to something enormous that has been intensifying, is because your spirit, the part of you that operates beneath the level of conscious awareness, is recognizing that the et has arrived. This is not metaphor. This is not an inspirational construction designed to make you feel better about a situation that is not actually changing. This is a description of what is actually happening at the deepest level of your life in this exact moment. And if you can receive that, if you can let that truth land in the body, rather than staying in the region of intellectual acknowledgement, something shifts in the way you move through the rest of this message and the rest of the days that follow it. Because here is what the understanding of Et changes. When you were waiting in Zeman, you were waiting as someone who could theoretically be permanently too late. If the moment passes in ordinary clock time, it does not return. That is the unavoidable quality of chronological time. But when you understand that you have been waiting for an Et, an appointed convergence, a divinely set moment, the waiting has a different quality. The Et cannot pass you by until it arrives. The appointment is not with the clock, it is with the conditions. And the conditions, by definition, do not arrive until everything that needed to be true before this moment could be true has finally become true, which means you were never in danger of missing what is yours. You were always going to arrive here. The only question was never whether. It was always when. And when is now. I want to shift into the territory that sits just beneath what we have been discussing, because the spiritual and the physical are not two separate systems operating independently of each other. They are one reality perceived through two different instruments. And what I am about to show you is both. It is the spiritual truth of your delay seen through the lens of a very specific, very measurable, very documented physical reality that most people in your situation have never encountered. And that changes the entire equation of why you are here and what is about to happen. There is something that was taken from you, not taken in a single dramatic event, taken gradually, systematically, without anyone intending to take it, by the accumulated weight of passing through the particular kind of world that modern life hands nearly every human being to live through. And this thing that was taken is not abstract. It has a name, it has a mechanism, it has a discoverer whose work won the highest scientific honor in the world. And its restoration has a method that is far simpler and far more accessible than anyone expected. When you were a child, before the world shaped you through its systems and its pressures and its narrow definitions of what intelligence looks like and what success requires and what productivity demands, your mind operated in a state that science has been studying for decades with increasing clarity and with increasing urgency. A state of what researchers now call whole brain activation, a state in which the two hemispheres of your brain, the left hemisphere that processes language and logic and sequence, and the right hemisphere that processes pattern and intuition and holistic perception, were working together in a synchronized communication that made you capable of things the adult version of you can only glimpse in rare and fleeting moments. You remember that state even if you do not remember the specific memories. You remember the texture of what learning felt like before it became a performance requirement. The way imagination produced images without effort, as if they were arriving rather than being constructed. The way solutions to problems surfaced naturally because your mind could hold the whole problem at once rather than processing it in isolated pieces. The way you lived in a state of what can only be described as flow, not because you were trying to achieve it, but because it was your natural condition. That state was not a childhood phenomenon that disappears naturally with age. That is a story that has been told so many times that it has the feeling of settled fact, but the science has definitively challenged it. The flow state, the whole brain activation, the synchronized hemispheric communication, these are not things you outgrow. They are things you lose access to through a specific process, and that process has a name and a mechanism. And because it has those things, its reversal also has a name and a mechanism. What happened to your natural capacity between childhood and adulthood was not inevitable. It was produced produced by the specific combination of stress and performance pressure and comparison, and the survival mode activation that the modern world generates in the brains of people who pass through it. By the narrowing of education from exploration to correct answer production, by the accumulation of low-grade chronic stress that locks the nervous system into a state of alert reactivity that is the opposite of the open, expansive, synchronized condition that whole brain activation requires. The brain, under sustained performance pressure and chronic stress, defaults to what researchers call beta dominance, a state where the left hemisphere takes over the majority of processing because it is the hemisphere specialized for the kind of linear, sequential, threat-assessing function that stressed survival requires. And the right hemisphere, the hemisphere responsible for the holistic perception and the intuitive knowing and the pattern recognition that connects disparate things into unified insight, gets progressively sidelined, not permanently, not irreversibly, but sidelined in a way that produces a person who is operating on a fraction of their designed capacity without knowing it, because the fraction has become familiar enough to feel like the whole. And here is the specific connection between this and the delay you have been living. When your brain is running on its full designed capacity, when both hemispheres are synchronized and contributing to everything you do, something happens that cannot happen in the partial state. You begin to perceive connections that the narrowed mind cannot see. Solutions arrive before you have finished processing the problem. Insights appear with a completeness that surprises your own mind. Opportunities are recognized in the moment they present rather than after they have passed. The specific kind of creative and intuitive reach that your calling requires, the reach that allows you to see what others cannot see and say what others cannot say, that reach is available in a way it simply is not when the hemispheres are disconnected. The gap between the clarity you receive in your best moments and the consistency you have not been able to sustain is not a moral or spiritual gap. It is a neural gap. And neural gaps have specific causes and, more importantly, specific solutions. I want to tell you about a woman. She had spent most of her adult life inside a narrative that her family had passed down like an inheritance she never asked for. A belief, not quite conscious but deeply operational, that something was working against them, that the timing was always slightly off, that the opportunity always arrived one step after they were positioned to receive it. Her father had given 22 years to a company he believed in. He had turned down other opportunities. He had stayed faithful when others left, and at the exact moment of his promotion, the company closed. She grew up watching that story. She grew up carrying the weight of it, and as her own life moved forward, the pattern seemed to confirm itself in ways that made the inherited narrative feel like simple realism, rather than the limitation it actually was. She had tried everything that was available to her. She had been faithful in her spiritual practice. She had invested in her own development with genuine commitment. She had done the internal work that the people around her respected and admired. And still the feeling persisted that something was working against her at a level she could not reach with the tools she had access to. And then she found something. Within a few weeks of consistent practice, with a specific tool developed by a specific researcher, things began to shift. Not in a dramatic overnight transformation, in the way that genuine shifts happen, which is quiet and unmistakable and cumulative. An insight in a meeting that solved a problem she had been carrying for months. A recognition from leadership that had been withheld for years. A return of something in her personal life that she had assumed was permanently absent. And underneath all of it, the growing certainty that whatever had been working against her natural capacity to perceive and receive and create was no longer in operation at the same level. The pattern was broken, not by spiritual effort alone, by the restoration of the instrument through which spiritual effort expresses itself in the practical world. What she found is what I am going to show you. But before I show you what she found, I want to spend more time with the specific nature of what was taken from you during the season of your formation. Because understanding what was taken is not just intellectually important. It is the ground on which the restoration becomes something you can fully receive rather than simply being told about. The process of hemisphere disconnection is not a sudden event. It is gradual. It happens over years and through the accumulation of specific kinds of experiences. And because it is gradual, the person inside the process almost never notices it happening. They only notice the results. They only notice that the things that once came easily now require effort, that the clarity that was once natural now requires conditions, that the state of creative, receptive, fully alive engagement that was their childhood default has become something they access only occasionally, in their best moments, in the rare convergence of circumstances that create enough safety and openness for the suppressed capacity to briefly re-emerge. Think about the last time you were in that state, the last time the ideas came without effort, the last time you felt fully present and fully engaged and fully connected, not just to the task in front of you, but to something larger that was moving through the task. The last time you had what could only be called a eureka moment, a moment where the answer arrived whole rather than being constructed piece by piece. That state is not a mystery. It has a neurological description. It is the state of whole brain activation, and it was available to you without effort when you were a child, and it has been available to you with increasing infrequency as the hemisphere suppression accumulated over the years. The good news is that this is not irreversible. The brain is not a fixed instrument. Neuroplasticity, the documented capacity of the brain to rewire and restore and reorganize itself in response to specific inputs, means that what was suppressed can be unsuppressed. What was disconnected can be reconnected. What was dimmed can be relit, not through years of sustained effort, through the application of the right input at the right level of the neural system. There is a man whose work changed the permanent architecture of neuroscience. His name is Dr. Roger Sperry. In 1981, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for a discovery that proved something the scientific establishment had long resisted accepting. His research on the split brain proved definitively that the two hemispheres are not simply two redundant processors doing the same thing. They are two distinct systems with two distinct processing philosophies and two distinct capacities. And when they operate in synchronized communication, the combined capacity is not additive, it is exponential. The brain in whole brain activation mode does not simply do twice what the single hemisphere mode does. It does things that single hemisphere mode is categorically incapable of. What Dr. Sperry proved opened a door that researchers in multiple disciplines have been walking through ever since, developing an increasingly precise understanding of how the hemispheres synchronize. What conditions produce synchronization? What conditions disrupt it? What can restore it when it has been disrupted by the accumulated weight of the world the modern person is asked to inhabit? And one of the most significant developments to come out of that decades-long body of research is what I am about to name for you. But I want to hold that naming for a moment because there is one more piece of the formation picture that I need to complete before we arrive at the solution. The formation piece about the obstacle. The thing that was not just working against your natural capacity, but that has been the primary driver of the gap between the person you feel yourself to be in your clearest moments and the person you have been able to consistently sustain. In the ordinary days, the obstacle is not what most spiritual frameworks name as the obstacle. It is not primarily the enemy of your soul, though the enemy of your soul is real and does operate. It is not primarily the opposition of other people, though that opposition has been real in your life too. The primary obstacle, the one that has been operating closest to the center of your experience of delay and limitation, is the suppression of the very instrument through which your calling expresses itself in the world. Your calling does not express itself in a vacuum. It expresses itself through a mind, through a brain, through a neural system that can perceive and receive and generate and transmit with a particular quality and range and clarity when it is fully operational. And when the instrument is running below its designed capacity, the calling that is trying to move through it meets resistance at the neural level, not the spiritual level, the physical, measurable, addressable neural level. This is why the spiritual work you have been doing, the faithfulness and the prayer and the declaration and the alignment of your will with your calling has been producing results that feel real but inconsistent, not because the spiritual work is insufficient, because the instrument through which the spiritual work tries to express itself in practical, visible, sustainable reality has been operating below the level that sustainable expression requires. You have been doing the right things. You have been doing them faithfully, but you have been doing them on a fraction of the instrument that those things were designed to operate through. When the instrument is restored, the work you have already been doing does not vanish. It finds the fuller channel it has been waiting for. The prayers you have been praying begin to produce fruit at a rate that matches their sincerity, rather than being limited by the instrument that has been receiving them. The vision you have been carrying begins to have a clear path to expression, rather than remaining permanently in the territory of what you can see but cannot seem to reach. The assignments that have been assembling in the background begin to have a complete connection between their spiritual reality and their practical form. The restoration of the instrument is not the replacement of the spiritual. It is the completion of the circuit between the spiritual reality and the physical expression, between the calling and the living of it, between the knowing and the doing of what the knowing requires. And this restoration is available, not as a promise that requires more waiting, as something that is accessible right now through a method that I am about to show you, built on the Nobel Prize science, developed by a neurologist in New York City who has spent more than 2 decades making the clinical-grade restoration of hemisphere synchronization available to people who cannot access it through expensive clinical protocols. I want to place a marker here, a point of reference that I will return to when this message arrives at the full picture. A simple statement that you can hold as the thread that will connect everything else that follows. The delay in your life had a physical dimension as well as a spiritual one. The two are connected. The suppression of your whole brain capacity has been operating as the hidden variable in your experience of operating below your design ceiling. And the restoration of that capacity is the piece that closes the gap between the calling and the consistent expression of it, between the urgency of the et and the ability to fully step into what the et is opening. That is what we are building toward, and it is closer than you know. The question that I want to spend time with now is the question that sits underneath all of the spiritual language and all of the formation narrative and all of the truth about the et and the appointed time. The question that does not go away just because you have understood the spiritual framework. The question that lives in the practical, embodied, daily experience of being a human being who feels called to something they have not yet been able to fully express. And the question is this: why, specifically, does the gap persist? If the calling is real, if the preparation is real, if the ET has arrived, what is the specific mechanism that has been creating and maintaining the gap between the person you know you are and the person you have been able to consistently show up as? I want to answer that question with the specificity it deserves, not with spiritual generalities, not with principles that are true but incomplete, with the specific, named, documented answer that decades of research in one of the most rigorous scientific traditions in the world has produced, and that one neurologist in New York has spent more than 20 years translating from the clinical laboratory into something that everyday people can actually access. Here is what the research shows. When researchers test children between the ages of 4 and 5, using the assessments developed to measure what they call creative genius, the kind of divergent, whole-brain, integrative thinking that produces insight and innovation, and the kind of problem-solving that conventional linear thought cannot perform. 98% of those children test at the level of creative genius. 98%. Nearly every child that has not yet been significantly processed by the educational system carries a whole brain capacity that the research classifies at genius level. The same assessment is given 5 years later, 30%. 5 years after that, 8%. By adulthood, less than 2 people in every 100 retain the whole brain functioning that was natural to 98% of them as small children. 98 to 2. That is the journey that every person who passes through the modern world takes, not by choice, not by personal failure, by exposure to a set of conditions that the brain was not designed to sustain over the long term, without losing access to its most expansive and integrative capacities. The conditions are not mysterious. They are the ordinary conditions of ordinary modern life. The condition of being evaluated and compared and graded in ways that activate the survival and performance mechanisms of the brain and suppress the open, exploratory, expansive condition that whole brain activation requires. The condition of chronic low-grade stress that the nervous system was designed to experience in acute bursts and then recover from, but that the modern life delivers as a permanent background state that the nervous system eventually adapts to by locking into a permanent alert mode. The condition of the narrowing that happens when the world consistently rewards one kind of thinking and one kind of output, while ignoring or penalizing the kind of whole brain, right hemisphere inclusive processing that produces genuine creativity and intuitive knowing. None of this is the fault of the people who raised you or educated you or shaped the systems you passed through. None of it was intentionally harmful. But the effect is real, and the effect is documented, and the effect has a name, and that name is hemisphere disconnection. The left and right hemispheres of the brain, which in childhood operate in the synchronized communication that produces whole brain genius level function, gradually decouple under the accumulated weight of the conditions I have just described. The left hemisphere takes increasing dominance. The right hemisphere, with its holistic, pattern-recognizing, intuitively knowing capacities, becomes progressively less accessible, not gone, suppressed, like a radio signal that still exists but has so much interference running through it that the receiver can barely pull a clear signal from the noise. And here is the thing about living inside that suppressed state for long enough. It starts to feel like the natural ceiling, like the full picture of what you are capable of. The person who has been running at 30% of their designed neural capacity for 20 years does not feel like they are running at 30%. They feel like they are running at full, because the baseline has shifted so gradually that there was never a single moment where the contrast was sharp enough to make the reduction visible. You compare yourself to others who have gone through the same suppression. You compare your current capacity to your recent memory of your capacity, which was also suppressed. And the gap between where you are and where you were designed to operate stays invisible because the reference point you are comparing to is already below the design. But you have glimpsed the full picture. That is what makes your situation different from someone who has never felt the pull of their calling. You have had moments, in the clearest hours, in the states of prayer that opened into something more than prayer, in the creative episodes when everything came together in a way that surprised even you. You have glimpsed the full power version of your mind. You have tasted it briefly. And the taste is the source of the urgency, because, having tasted it, you cannot fully accept the partial version as the permanent condition. The urgency is the whole brain signal trying to reach you through the interference. The pull you feel toward your calling is the right hemisphere, with its holistic and intuitive and pattern-connecting capacities, pushing against the dominance of the stress-locked left hemisphere and trying to tell you that you are more than this, that you were designed for more than this, that what feels like the ceiling is not the ceiling at all. And it is right. The calling is real and the capacity is real, and the ceiling is not the ceiling. I want to give you something practical, because the truth I have been speaking has to land somewhere useful, and the most useful place for it to land is in a practice you can carry into the daily experience of being the person you are, while you are still moving toward the person you are becoming. A practice that addresses the specific confusion of urgency that arises when the calling is pressing and the direction is not entirely clear. When something is signaling loudly and the signal is real, but the action that is supposed to follow is not yet obvious, here is what I have found to be the most reliable way to tell the difference between urgency that comes from fear and urgency that comes from calling. And I want you to think of this not as information to remember, but as a practice to use. Something you can apply in any moment when the pressure is high and the direction feels ambiguous. When the urgency that rises in you is the urgency of fear, it closes. It narrows your field of perception. It makes the future look like a single point of possible catastrophe that you are racing to avoid. Fear urgency activates the survival mechanisms of the nervous system. It produces tunnel vision. It makes the present moment feel dangerous in a way that collapses your capacity to see the full range of what is actually available. Fear urgency is loud about what it is running from, and vague and scattered about where it is running to. When the urgency that rises in you is the urgency of calling, it opens. Even when it is intense, even when the pressure of it is real and the discomfort of it is genuine, there is something underneath it that has the texture of spaciousness, the texture of alignment. The urgency of a runner who is not fleeing something but pursuing something that matters with everything they have. Calling urgency knows what it is moving toward. It has a quality of rightness even when the specifics are unclear. It does not collapse your perception. It expands it. The practice is simple. When the urgency is high, when the pressure is real, when something in you is insisting that the moment is now and that waiting any longer is unacceptable. Before you respond to that urgency with any external action, pause for 15 seconds, not to suppress the urgency, not to dismiss it, but to feel into it and ask one question. Does this feel like I am running from something or like I am running toward something? If it feels like running from, if the urgency has the contracting, narrowing, threat-assessing quality of fear, that is the signal to examine what is underneath before acting. The action the fear urgency prescribes often looks like the right move, but addresses the wrong layer. If it feels like running toward, if underneath the intensity there is a sense of alignment, a sense of rightness even in the discomfort, a sense that what you are being called to do is consistent with the deepest version of who you are and what you are here for, that urgency is worth trusting. That is the signal and not the noise. And for most of you listening to this right now, the urgency you have been feeling, the urgency that brought you here and that has been building for longer than you can easily track, that is the running toward kind. It has been tested by enough disappointment that the fear component of it has been largely purified away. What remains is the clean signal, the genuine call, the et pressing against the window with the full weight of what has been assembled to arrive through it. I want to pause here for a moment, not to build a new idea or open a new loop or introduce another layer of what is true, simply to breathe. You have been carrying a significant amount in this listening. The weight of what is being named, the weight of the waiting that is being honored, the weight of the understanding that is arriving, all of it deserves a moment of settling before I continue. Because truth that arrives too fast, without space to land in the body, stays in the mind as information rather than becoming the kind of understanding that actually changes things. So right now, I want to ask you to do something simple and intentional. Not a prayer, not a declaration, just a breath. Take one full breath, slowly, into the body rather than just into the chest. And as you do, notice the physical space you are in, the quality of the air, the specific temperature, the sounds that exist around you right now. Not to analyze any of it, just to register that you are here, that the body that is carrying this listening is real and present, and, despite everything it has been through, still here, still open, still capable of receiving. That is not nothing. The fact that you are still open, after everything that has argued against openness, is one of the most significant facts about you. The person who closes under sustained pressure is not the person who is capable of carrying what your calling requires. The person who remains open, who remains receptive, who continues to show up in spaces where truth is being spoken even when hope has been tested and disappointed, that person carries something that cannot be manufactured by any faster process. You are still open, and that means everything. Let me tell you about a man who spent most of his adult life carrying something he could not explain to the people around him. Not a conventional problem with a conventional solution. Something harder to name. A sense that the life he was living, while functional and in some ways genuinely good, was operating on a partial track. That the version of himself who existed in his best moments, who could see clearly and think sharply and generate solutions with a confidence that surprised even him, was not the same version that showed up most of the time. That there was a version of his mind that he could visit occasionally, but could not seem to inhabit permanently. He had tried the usual approaches. He had tried various spiritual practices. He had spent money on supplements and programs and protocols designed to optimize brain function. He had done the work, both internal and practical, and while some of what he tried produced real benefit in some dimensions of his life, the specific gap he was trying to close, the gap between the version of himself he glimpsed in his best moments and the one he could sustain, that gap remained. And over time it had begun to feel less like a problem to be solved and more like a feature of his particular design, a permanent limitation that the faithfulness of his continuing to try had to accommodate rather than overcome. And then he encountered the research, not through a dramatic revelation, through the ordinary path of one discovery leading to another, and that discovery leading to a tool that had been built from the Nobel Prize research. He began using it, not expecting transformation, expecting, at best, another partial benefit that would improve something without addressing the core gap. And what happened instead was not the gradual, incremental improvement he had learned to accept as the realistic version of progress. It was the restoration of something. The return of a capacity that had been present in his best moments but inconsistent, becoming gradually and then consistently available. The gap between who he was on his best days and who he was on his ordinary days began to narrow and then to close. Not completely in a moment, but in a direction and at a rate that made clear that something fundamental had shifted at a level below the level of effort. The instrument had been restored, and through the restored instrument, the calling began to find its full expression. What he encountered, is what I am about to show you in this message. And I want to make sure before I do that you understand something about the context in which you are receiving this information. You have not been building toward this by accident. Every part of this message has been preparing the ground for this specific understanding. The understanding of the et, the understanding of what was taken from you in the transition from childhood to adulthood. The understanding of the gap that exists not because of spiritual insufficiency, but because of a specific, documented, reversible neural condition. All of that has been the preparation for this. Because the restoration that is available is not a small thing. It is the closing of the gap, the restoration of the instrument, the return of the whole brain capacity that was yours before the world systematically suppressed it. And when that capacity returns, what you have been building through the long preparation of your season, the depth and the wisdom and the authority and the compassion and the rootedness that only the wilderness produces, all of that suddenly has the full instrument it requires to express itself in the world as it was always designed to do. The convergence of those two things, the completion of the preparation and the restoration of the instrument, is the specific nature of this threshold. This is not just a spiritual breakthrough that leaves the neural gap in place. This is not just a neural restoration that leaves the spiritual preparation unacknowledged. This is both at the same time, in the same moment, because they are the same moment. And the name for the convergence of both in one place at one time is exactly what we have been calling it from the beginning. You're at your appointed time, your specific convergence of conditions, interior and exterior, spiritual and physical, that makes possible now what was not possible before. Before I show you what I have been building toward, I want to make sure you are carrying one more piece of understanding. One more piece that is essential to receiving what comes next with the full depth it deserves. And it is this. 3. The thing that is about to be shown to you is not a replacement for the spiritual work you have been doing. It is not a shortcut that bypasses the formation. It is not a tool that makes the preparation unnecessary or that suggests the preparation was somehow mistaken. The formation was real and necessary and has produced something irreplaceable. What is about to be shown to you is the completion of a circuit that the formation opened, but that has been missing one essential connection. The connection between the person the preparation has been forming and the instrument through which the calling of that person fully expresses itself. The preparation formed the person. The restoration completes the instrument. And when both are in place at the same time, which is exactly what is available to you right now, what becomes possible is the full and consistent and sustainable expression of everything that the long preparation was building toward. There is something a small group of scientists built that I need to show you now, something that the decades of research since the Nobel Prize discovery has been building toward. Something that a specific neurologist in New York City spent more than 2 decades developing into a form that everyday people in the ordinary circumstances of their lives can access. Something that addresses the hemisphere disconnection not with years of sustained clinical practice, but with 8 minutes a day and a pair of headphones. And I want you to hear what it is and how it works and why the science behind it is the most credible science available in this space. Because what I am about to tell you is going to change the way you understand what has been happening in your life and what is available to you right now. Let me tell you more about the specific population this has reached, because this is not a story about one person or two. 18,000 people, ordinary people in ordinary circumstances, have gone through the experience of restoring the hemisphere synchronization through this method. Not theoretical subjects in a controlled clinical environment. People who were carrying exactly what you are carrying. The urgency and the calling and the gap between the knowing and the consistent expression of it. People who had tried other things and found that other things addressed the surface without reaching the root. The stories that have come back from that population share a specific quality. They are not the stories of people who had dramatic overnight transformations. They are the stories of people who describe a gradual and then accelerating restoration. The return of a clarity they had forgotten was accessible to them. The arrival of insights that solved things they had been carrying for months. The shift in the quality of their daily experience from effortful and below ceiling to something that felt, for the first time in a long time, like operating at the level they were actually designed for. One woman described it this way. She said that listening to it felt like a light coming on in a room that she did not know was dark, because she had been in the darkness long enough that it had started to feel like the natural condition of the room. And when the light came on, she was not surprised by how bright it was. She was surprised by how many things she could suddenly see that she had been moving around for years without being able to see clearly. Her relationships made more sense. The direction she had been struggling to identify became clear. The specific next steps that had felt perpetually vague became specific and actionable in a way they never had before. The room was not new. She was not new. The light was new. And the light is what the restoration of the instrument provides. I want to speak to the people in this listening who have tried other brain optimization approaches and found that they did not produce the shift they were expecting, who have spent time and money and faith on various tools and protocols and programs that promised to clear the fog and sharpen the clarity and restore the sense of full capacity operation, and who, after trying those things, are carrying a specific and understandable form of skepticism about any new claim that another tool will do what the previous tools did not. That skepticism is earned, and it is also based on a crucial distinction that most of those previous approaches did not address. The approaches you have tried, the approaches that focused on brain waves, on specific frequency entrainment, on the various auditory and supplemental protocols that the self-improvement space has made available. Those approaches were targeting a symptom. They were trying to address the feeling of below-capacity operation without addressing the root condition that produces it. And targeting symptoms without addressing root causes produces temporary and inconsistent results, which is exactly what you experienced. The root condition is hemisphere disconnection, the left and right hemispheres operating in isolation rather than in the synchronized communication that the whole brain capacity requires. And addressing that root condition directly is categorically different from addressing any of the symptoms it produces. When the hemispheres reconnect, when the neural sync mechanism that Dr. Roger Sperry won the Nobel Prize describing begins operating as it was designed to operate, the results are not temporary relief of symptoms. They are the restoration of the underlying capacity from which sustainable results flow naturally. This is the distinction that most people in your situation have never been given, because most of the tools in the market are not built on the Nobel Prize research. They are built on approaches that are adjacent to it, that borrow its language without having its mechanism. And when you encounter something that actually has the mechanism, it works differently from the beginning, not as the latest attempt in a series of attempts. As the arrival of what has been missing from all the previous attempts. The specifics of what was built from that research are what I am going to give you in the next section of this message. But I want to close this section with something that is more important than any specific tool or any specific method. Something that is the foundation that makes the tool meaningful rather than simply another option in a crowded market of options. You were designed for more than you have been able to express, not marginally more, significantly more. The version of you that has been appearing in your best moments, The clear-seeing, sharply thinking, deeply feeling, fully alive version that surfaces when the conditions allow it is not a visitor, it is the genuine resident. It is who you actually are when the instrument is operating at the level it was designed to operate at. Everything else, the fog and the below-ceiling performance, and the gap between knowing and consistent expression is the interference, and interference can be cleared. The urgency of this moment is not the urgency of someone who is running out of time. It is the urgency of someone who has found the thing they did not know they were looking for, who recognizes in what they are encountering the answer to the question they have been living for years. The urgency of arriving, not of almost missing. You are not almost missing, you are arriving. And what you are arriving at is the convergence of everything, the preparation built and the instrument restored. The full, consistent, sustainable expression of the calling that has been real all along, and that is about to find the full channel it has always deserved. There is a particular kind of darkness that comes immediately before the arrival of extraordinary things. Not the ordinary darkness of a difficult day, not the darkness that corresponds to difficulty without purpose. A specific kind of darkness that belongs to people who have been promised something, who have been given clear internal evidence of their calling, who have been prepared through a process that was real and demanding and has produced something genuine, and who are now sitting in what appears to be the absolute opposite of everything that calling was supposed to produce. A man sat in a cave, not in a metaphorical cave, a physical cave, in the side of a hill in a land under the rule of a king who had decided to kill him. The man in the cave had been promised the kingdom. He had been anointed for it by the prophet who spoke for the divine. He had won battles that should have been impossible. He had been given favor in circumstances where favor had no logical basis. He had a clear and direct internal evidence of his calling that had been confirmed in external events that were impossible to dismiss. And now he was hiding in a cave, writing poetry to a God he still believed in, but could not currently feel the presence of. He wrote the words that have become among the most reproduced in human history. My God, why have you forsaken me? Not the words of a person who has abandoned faith, not the words of a person who has concluded that the calling was false. The words of someone who is still in conversation with the one they believe in, even when the evidence says the conversation has gone unanswered. The words of someone in the final and most intense compression of the spring before the release. The words of someone whose et was days away from arriving and who, from inside the cave, had no way of knowing that. And within days, the cave was over. Not in a gradual and incremental and barely noticeable way, in the sudden, complete, total way that appointed times arrive when they arrive. The confinement ended. The throne that had been promised was no longer a future claim to be maintained by faith. It was a present reality, and the preparation that had looked from inside it like abandonment was revealed, in a moment, to have been the precise formation of exactly the person who was now capable of ruling what he had been promised for so long. You are not in the cave forever. The cave is not your permanent condition. But you are in the cave right now, or you have been in the cave in the season that has been building to this moment. And the person in the cave always feels like they are running out of time. Always feels like the moment is slipping. Always feels the urgency of something enormous, pressing against the confinement of circumstances that have not yet opened. And the thing that nobody tells you when you are inside the cave, the thing that is both the hardest truth and the most liberating truth, is that the confinement of the cave is not incidental to the preparation. The cave is the preparation. The limitation is the teacher. The walls that feel like imprisonment are the very conditions that are forming the specific qualities of character and wisdom that cannot be formed in the open. The cave does not last forever because you have endured it long enough. The cave ends when what it was building is complete, when the pressure has produced the structure, when the formation has made the person who the assignment requires. You are about to leave the cave. Before I bring you the full picture of what is available to you, I want to make sure you have received something specific that will serve you in the weeks and months ahead. Not just inspiration that evaporates by morning. Something concrete. Something you can return to in the moments when the old story tries to re-establish itself. Something that answers the question your mind will eventually ask, which is, what did I actually learn here? Here is what you have learned, stated as clearly as I can state it. Your calling is real. The evidence for this is not your feelings alone. It is the specific texture of what you have lived through, the faithfulness you have maintained without external validation, the urgency that has persisted through every argument against it, the specific form of your pain that corresponds with precision to the specific form of the preparation that your assignment requires. Your delay was not punishment. It was the most intensive formation process available. The specific combination of waiting and almost arriving and sustained faithfulness under evidence-poor conditions has built something in you that rapid arrival never builds. An authority in your words that comes from having been exactly where the people you will serve are standing. A compassion that is not theoretical but lived. A rootedness that cannot be shaken by opposition because it was forged in the opposition. Your waiting season also had a physical dimension that has now been named. The suppression of your natural whole brain capacity, the gradual disconnection of your hemispheres under the accumulated weight of stress and performance pressure, and the narrowing that modern life produces, has been operating as the hidden variable in your experience of the gap between your calling and your consistent expression of it. And the restoration of that capacity is not just possible. It is available right now through a specific method built on the Nobel Prize research of Dr. Roger Sperry. These two truths together, the completion of the preparation and the availability of the instrument restoration, constitute the specific nature of your the convergence of conditions that makes what is about to happen in your life not just spiritually plausible, but practically achievable. Not just theoretically your destiny, but concretely, measurably, consistently available to the version of you that is about to step into the fullness of your design. I want to give you a moment of activation before I bring you the full picture of the instrument. A moment where what has been understood moves from the mind into the body, from information into orientation, from knowing to being in the knowing. In your mind right now, I want you to do something. If you are somewhere that allows it, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to bring to mind not the version of yourself that you have been managing to show up as in the ordinary days of this long season, but the version you have been glimpsing, the one that surfaces in your best moments, the one that speaks with a clarity that surprises you, the one that sees connections that others cannot see and arrives at solutions that others cannot reach, and carries something in the quality of their presence that people feel before they understand why they feel it. Hold that version in your awareness, not as a future aspiration, as a recognition of what you actually are when the instrument is fully operational. As the genuine resident of the mind you inhabit, temporarily obscured by the interference, but not replaced by it, not absent, present and attempting to emerge. Feel the difference between that version and the version you have been managing most days. Feel the gap between them not as a condemnation, but as a measure of what is about to be closed. Feel the specific qualities that the full capacity version carries that the suppressed version is working so hard to reach. The ease, the clarity, the sense of full presence in the moment and full access to the knowing that the moment requires. The sense of being fully connected to both the human dimension and the dimension of what moves through the human dimension when the channel is clear. That full version is not the goal, it is the return. Open your eyes. and let me give you what I have been building toward. There is a place in the neuroscience literature where the research from Dr. Roger Sperry, who won the Nobel Prize in 1981 for proving the distinct functions and the synchronization capacity of the brain hemispheres, converges with the decades of clinical work that followed. A body of research that produced, among other things, the understanding of how to deliberately activate the neural sync mechanism, the specific biological process by which the two hemispheres establish their coordinated communication through targeted auditory input, not through any particular sound frequency, not through any particular brainwave stimulation approach, through the precision-engineered application of the neural sync technology that the Sperry research made possible to understand. A neurologist in New York City named Dr. Daniel Barone has spent more than 20 years taking that research from the clinical laboratory and translating it into a form that ordinary people can access in the circumstances of their ordinary lives. Not a program that requires special equipment costing thousands of dollars. Not a protocol that requires in-person sessions at $300 an hour. An 8-minute targeted auditory sequence that activates the neural sync mechanism directly through a method that requires nothing more than a pair of headphones and 8 minutes of quiet. And that does, in those 8 minutes, what an in-person neurofeedback session of significantly longer duration does in the clinical setting. They call it the genius switch. I want to be specific about what it is and what it is not. It is not a brainwave track. The science that underlies it is not the brainwave entrainment approach that many of you have encountered in other audio tools. Brainwave approaches target the symptom level. They attempt to shift the brain into a particular operating frequency without addressing the underlying hemisphere disconnection that produces the below capacity state. The genius switch targets the root condition directly. The neural sync technology that activates the hemisphere synchronization mechanism itself. The connection between the left and right hemispheres at the level where the connection either exists or does not. Not a surface adjustment, a root-level restoration. This is the distinction that separates it from every other audio tool that uses similar language. This is why the people who have tried other things and found them insufficient find a different result here. Because they are finally addressing the right level. The research that underlies it is not proprietary or obscure. When Dr. Sperry proved that the hemispheres of the brain can synchronize and that the state of full synchronization produces capacities that neither hemisphere alone can generate, he was describing the mechanism that the genius switch activates. The Nobel Prize science is the foundation. The neural sync technology is the application, and the 8-minute daily practice is the delivery. When scientists tested those who consistently activated the whole brain state, they found what the researchers call flow state. The state that Steve Jobs described as the condition in which the most creative work of his life was produced. The state that Nikola Tesla inhabited when he described solving problems that had no logical solution by simply receiving the answer whole. The state that athletes and artists and musicians and thinkers across history have described almost identically as the experience of being a vessel through which something larger was moving rather than a mind that was laboring to produce. You have been in that state, in your best moments, in the clearest hours, in the peak experiences that have given you the reference point for what the full version feels like. The genius switch does not manufacture that state from nothing. It restores the neural conditions under which that state becomes your default rather than your exception. I want to tell you about someone whose story carries the exact shape of what many of you have been living. A woman in Manhattan had spent much of her adult life inside a story she inherited from her family. A story about timing that was always slightly off. About opportunity that consistently arrived one step after the positioning to receive it. Her father had given 22 years to a company he believed in, had turned down other options, had stayed faithful to a single commitment. And at the exact moment of his promotion, the company closed. She grew up watching that. She grew up carrying the weight of that particular pattern as though it were her inheritance. She tried everything. She was faithful in her spiritual practice. She invested in her own growth with genuine commitment. She did the work that people around her respected. And still the pattern persisted in ways that had started to feel less like a problem to be solved and more like a feature of her particular design, something in the family line that went deeper than what her effort could reach. And then she began using the genius switch consistently. Within 3 weeks, an insight arrived in a meeting that solved a problem she had been carrying for months. Within 6 weeks, a recognition from leadership that had been withheld for years. Within 2 months, the return of something in her personal life she had assumed was permanently gone. She said the feeling was not of dramatic transformation, but of something that had been standing between her and what was supposed to be hers, finally stepping aside. The pattern was broken, not by trying harder at the spiritual level, by restoring the instrument through which the spiritual work was trying to express itself. The circuit was completed, and what had been trying to reach her began to arrive. Now, let me address something directly. If you have spent time with brainwave tools, with binaural beats or similar approaches, and found that they did not produce the result you were hoping for, that experience is not evidence that nothing works. It is evidence that those approaches were addressing the wrong level. Brainwave stimulation attempts to shift the operating frequency of the brain without reconnecting the hemispheres. It is like trying to improve the sound quality of a disconnected stereo by adjusting the volume. The problem is not the volume. The problem is the disconnection, and the genius switch addresses the disconnection itself. If you search on streaming platforms for anything that claims to do what the genius switch does, you will find tracks that use similar language. Dr. Barone and his team have studied those tracks. The majority of them contain no neural sync technology at all. They use the language of whole brain activation because the language resonates with the audience, but the mechanism is absent. The actual neural sync technology required to activate hemisphere synchronization is not something that can be produced through ordinary audio production. It took years of clinical research to develop the specific engineering that makes it work, and that engineering is only available through the direct channel that Dr. Barone established for exactly that reason. The link to where Dr. Barone and his team have made the genius switch available is in the description and pinned comment below this message. Not a streaming platform, not a marketplace. The direct source, where the neural sync technology is intact, and the mechanism is what the research describes. Now, let me tell you about the cost, because this is where most people are surprised. Colleagues of Dr. Barone, who first encountered the research, suggested that the access it provides was so extraordinary compared to the alternatives that it could have been priced at $500 and still represented exceptional value. Consider that in-person neurofeedback sessions, the clinical approach to restoring brain hemisphere function, run $300 an hour. In-home clinical equipment runs $7,000. Dr. Barone made a deliberate choice to set the access point not at what the market would bear, but at what ordinary people who need this can actually afford. The standard price is $49. Because you are here and because you have invested your attention in the full understanding of what this is and why it matters, the access available through the link below is $39. One time. Not a subscription. Not a recurring charge. Yours, permanently. The moment you access it, with that access come 4 additional resources at no added cost. A guided visualization built by one of the highest-rated practitioners in the well-being space, designed to help you engage the creative faculty that the genius switch is restoring. a practical guide to the 10 most common foods in ordinary American grocery stores that actively interfere with brain function, along with specific alternatives that support it, including where to find them at Walmart, Costco, Target, Whole Foods, and Amazon, a guide that has helped people save over $100 a month while improving the neural environment the genius switch is restoring. A book published more than a century ago that is the foundational text behind virtually every manifestation approach that has come since it, available for $20 in any bookstore and included here at no cost. And a visual reference guide covering the 5 habits most consistently associated with the kind of life that becomes available when the whole brain is operating at its designed level. The entire access, the Genius Switch, and the 4 bonuses is protected by a 100% ironclad money-back guarantee. Listen every day for a week. Listen every day for a month. Listen 80 times or more. If the experience of using it does not produce a shift that you can feel and identify and point to, every cent returns to you. The guarantee exists because Dr. Barone and his team understand that healthy skepticism is rational, especially for people who have tried other things. The guarantee is the answer to the skepticism, provided in advance, so that the decision to try it is not a decision to take a risk. It is a decision to investigate a claim at 0 financial risk. If what you have heard resonates, if the description of the gap between your calling and your consistent expression of it has landed as recognition rather than information, if something in you already knew that the instrument was the missing piece before I gave it a name, the link in the description and the pinned comment below this message is the door to what Dr. Barone built. Step through it if your spirit confirms it, and if this is not the right moment for that step, the understanding you carry from this message is yours regardless. Either way, you are here for a reason, and what comes next belongs to you. The return that is coming in your life is not a partial return, not a glimpse of what could be followed by more waiting. It is the kind of return that the complete formation and the restored instrument make possible together. The insights that have been trying to reach you will land with a precision they have not had access to before. The opportunities that have been assembling in the background will be perceptible at the moment of their arrival, rather than in retrospect. The specific steps that have been vague will become specific. The calling that has been real but inconsistently accessible will become the consistent operating reality of your daily life. And the people who need what you carry will begin to find you in ways that will require you to carry more capacity than you have ever had to carry before. You were built for this. The instrument is about to be restored, and the harvest of the long preparation is beginning. Chosen one, I want to pause here with you for a moment. What you have just received is not a sales pitch that happened to be wrapped in spiritual language. What you have just received is an honest account of something that has changed the arc of real lives. You do not have to act on it tonight. You do not have to act on it at all. The information itself, the understanding of what hemisphere disconnection has been doing in your life and what is possible when that disconnection is addressed, belongs to you. Now, whether or not you ever take the next step, understanding changes the frame, and a changed frame changes what you can see. What you can see determines what becomes possible. And what becomes possible is the territory your calling is waiting to inhabit. But I want to go deeper with you now, because the practical information has been delivered, and what remains is something older and more essential than practical information. What remains is the identity question, the real one, the one underneath the question about timing, and the question about tools, and the question about why it has taken this long. The real question is this: who are you, really? Not who you have been performing, not who you have been apologizing for being. not who you have been condensing yourself into in order to fit the spaces that were never actually built for you. Who are you at the level that does not change when the circumstances change? Who are you at the level that your calling is always speaking to, even when you cannot hear it clearly? Who are you when you strip away the waiting, the frustration, the gap, the comparison, and the exhaustion of not yet? This is the question that everything we have explored today has been building toward. And I want to answer it with you. Not for you, with you. Because the answer is already inside you, and what I am doing is not installing new information. I am reading back to you what is already written in you, in language clear enough that you can finally recognize it. Here is what is true about you. You were not late to your calling, you were being educated by it. Every season that looked like delay was a graduate-level curriculum in disguise. Every closed door was not rejection. It was redirection, calibration, and the precise placement of a person who was not yet ready to carry what was coming. Not because of any deficiency in you, because of the magnitude of what was coming. Because what is being built through you is too important to be held by a version of you that was still in formation. The formation had to happen first. The formation was not the enemy of the calling. The formation was the calling in its foundational phase. You were not standing still while the world moved without you. You were being positioned. You were being placed with a precision that required patience as its primary ingredient. And patience is not the absence of movement. Patience is movement at a frequency that the ordinary eye cannot detect. You have been moving this whole time. You have been growing this whole time. You have been being prepared this whole time. The preparation simply did not look the way you thought it should look. Think about Esther again, not the Esther of the triumph, the Esther of the preparation. Before the moment of her appearance before the king, there were 12 months of preparation that looked from the outside like waiting. 12 months of purification, 12 months of learning, 12 months of being readied for something whose full significance she did not yet understand. The people around her saw a woman in preparation. Esther experienced it as preparation, but neither the observers nor Esther herself could have fully known that those 12 months were not the prelude to her purpose. Those 12 months were her purpose. They were the making of the woman whose appearance before the king would change the fate of a nation. The intervention could not have been delivered by an unprepared Esther. The courage required for the confrontation with Haman, the poise required for the banquets, the wisdom required for the timing of her reveal, all of that was forged in the months that looked like simple waiting. It was not simple, it was sacred formation. And when the moment arrived, she was exactly ready. Not because she had been waiting, but because she had been shaped. Your months, your years, your seasons of what felt like suspended animation. They were your 12 months. And David. Remember David in the cave at Adullam. Remember that when David arrived at that cave, he was not yet king. He had been anointed. The oil had been poured over his head. The prophet had spoken over him in the presence of his brothers. And then he had been sent back to tend the sheep. Then he had defeated Goliath. Then he had served faithfully in the court of Saul. Then he had been hunted. Then he had ended up in a cave with 400 men who were, according to the account, in distress, in debt, and discontented. This is not the profile of a victorious army. This is the profile of a support group for people who had run out of options. And David became their captain. Not because everything was going well, not because the path was clear, not because Saul had finally recognized what God had already declared. David became their captain in the cave, in the hiding, in the season that looked nothing like the destiny he had been anointed for. The anointing was real. The cave was also real. Both things were true at the same time. And the cave was not the negation of the anointing. The cave was the leadership training program that produced the king who could handle the kingdom. You have been in your cave. You may still be in it, looking at the walls, listening to the sounds outside, wondering when the movement toward your destiny begins. But here is what I need you to understand, what I need you to carry out of this conversation and into every day that follows. The cave is the throne room in disguise. The formation is the fulfillment in its early language. The waiting is the preparation, wearing the costume of delay. And the calling is not coming to you eventually. The calling has been operating in you all along, in the very circumstances you have been interpreting as evidence against it. I want to do something with you right now, something that is not about information, something that is about identity, because identity precedes manifestation, not the other way around. You do not manifest your way into an identity. You inhabit an identity that then makes certain manifestations natural, inevitable, and aligned. And the identity I want to help you inhabit is not new. It is not constructed tonight. It is real, it is yours, and it is waiting to be claimed with the full weight of your recognition. So I am going to speak some things, and as I speak them, I want you to do something specific. I do not want you to agree or disagree. I do not want you to evaluate whether you feel it is true. I want you to hold the words in the space behind your chest, in that place where recognition happens before the mind has words for it. And I want you to feel whether the words fit, not whether you deserve them, not whether your current circumstances support them, whether they fit, whether they match something in you that has always been there, but has not always had language. You are chosen, not by your own choosing, not because you earned selection, not because you are superior to those around you who are also being shaped in ways you cannot see. You are chosen in the way that a specific note is chosen for a specific composition, not because it is more valuable than the other notes, but because the song requires it. The composition cannot be complete without the exact contribution of that exact note played at the exact moment designated for it. You are that note. You are that contribution. You are that presence in the composition of what is happening in this generation that cannot be replaced by any other note. The specific gifts that live in you, the specific experiences that have formed you, the specific perspective that is yours and no one else, the specific people your life will intersect and alter and serve and love. None of that can be sourced from anyone else. You are genuinely, non-generically, irreplaceably chosen for the territory that belongs to your calling. You are anointed, not in the ceremonial sense only, not only in the sense of religious language that sometimes floats above life without landing in it. Anointed in the sense that you have been specifically equipped for a specific work. The equipment is already in you. Not all of it has been discovered yet. Not all of it has been exercised yet. But the equipment is present and the discovery is ongoing. And the exercise is what the calling is constantly asking of you. The anointing is not a future state. The anointing is your current reality in the process of its own unfolding. You are not waiting to be anointed. You are anointed and learning to move in what is already yours. You are positioned. This is the one that carries the most weight tonight, given the conversation we have been having. You are not behind your calling. You are not ahead of it. You are positioned. And positioning is a form of precision. To be positioned is not to be stranded. To be positioned is to be placed with intentionality in a location that is specific to what is about to happen. A surgeon is positioned before the incision. A musician is positioned before the first note. A messenger is positioned before the message is delivered. Your positioning is not punishment. Your positioning is preparation for precision. And I want to say this clearly. because this is one of the most important things we have discussed today. The sense of urgency that brought you to this message today is not evidence that you are late. The sense of urgency that you carry in your spirit right now is the evidence that the moment is near. Urgency is the instrument of proximity. The closer the moment, the louder the signal. The signal has been getting louder in you because the moment has been getting closer. Not because you have been falling further behind, but because you have been moving closer to the threshold of what your formation has been building toward. The emergency is not a warning that you missed it. The emergency is the announcement that it is arriving. You feel the urgency because you were designed to feel it at this moment. You are not late, chosen one. You are right on time. Now, I want to speak to something specific, because some of you who are listening to this today are carrying a particular weight that the others are not carrying in quite the same form. You are carrying not just the standard weight of unrealized calling. You are carrying the weight of years. You are carrying the accumulation of seasons where the promise felt real, but the manifestation did not come. You are carrying the memory of times when you were certain it was about to happen, and then it did not. And the memory of those near misses, the memory of the moments where you prepared and positioned and stepped forward and then the door closed again, that memory has installed a particular kind of skepticism in you. Not the healthy skepticism that is simply the rational evaluation of claims, a deeper skepticism. The skepticism that protects you from hoping too much, because hoping too much and then not seeing it arrive is a specific pain that you have learned to protect yourself from. I see that protection, I honor it, and I want to speak directly to it. Your protection is rational. It is the appropriate response to a history of disappointment, and it is also, right now, the thing that is standing between you and the shift that is within reach. Because the calling cannot be received at the level of protection. Protection contracts. Calling expands. And expansion is not the absence of discernment. Expansion is the willingness to be open past the point where past experience says to stay closed. The difference between the person who receives the breakthrough and the person who does not is rarely intelligence, gifting, or worthiness. The difference is almost always willingness. The willingness to let the next chapter be written by what is actually happening now, rather than by what happened in chapters that have already been lived. Your past disappointments are real. Your past disappointments are also finished. They are not predictors of what this moment contains. This moment is new. This chapter is new. And the version of you who is sitting in this moment is not the same version who experienced those earlier disappointments. You have been formed since then. You have been changed since then. You carry more now than you carried then. And what is coming to you is coming to a you who is more prepared for it than any earlier version of you could have been. Let me talk to you about restoration, because this is where we are in the narrative of your life, not the beginning, not the middle. Restoration is a specific chapter. It is the chapter that comes after formation, after testing, after the wilderness seasons, after the cave. Restoration is what happens when everything that was invested in the preparation comes forward. It is not a gentle, barely noticeable shift. Restoration is structural. Restoration is comprehensive. Restoration is the kind of movement that causes people who knew you before to look at what is happening in your life and use words like miraculous, unexpected, overwhelming, and accelerated. Joseph did not go from the pit to the palace gradually. He went from the pit to the prison, which looks like the opposite of restoration, and then from the prison to the second seat in Egypt, which looks like overnight transformation. Between the pit and the palace was approximately 13 years. But the transformation at the end was not the accumulation of 13 years of gradual progress. It was the sudden appearance of everything that 13 years of formation had been preparing. Formation is long and gradual. Restoration is sudden and comprehensive. You have been in the formation phase. You are at the edge of the restoration phase. Not because you have waited long enough to have earned it, but because the work that was required in you to prepare you for the weight of what is coming has reached its completion point. The instrument has been worked. The character has been tested. The calling has been clarified. The gifts have been sharpened in the hiding. And now the conditions are assembling for the emergence that the formation has been building toward. This is why you are here today. This is why this message found you. This is why the urgency in your spirit is real and is increasing rather than fading. The restoration is beginning, and the question now is not whether it is coming. The question is whether you are positioned to recognize it when it arrives, to receive it fully when it does, and to move with it when it begins to move. I want to help you prepare for that recognition right now, through something I am going to call a formation inventory, not a list of what you have not yet accomplished. An inventory of what the formation seasons have actually deposited in you, that you may not be fully accounting for because you have been measuring yourself against the destination rather than against where you began. Consider the wisdom you carry now that you did not carry at the beginning of your waiting season, the understanding of human nature that came through relational difficulty, the understanding of your own limits and your own strength that came through seasons of being pushed further than you thought you could go, the understanding of what matters and what does not, that came through the stripping away of things you thought you needed, but that turned out to be obstacles in the form of comforts. The clarity about your calling that came through the elimination of everything that was not it. None of that was in you at the start of this season. All of it is in you now. The you of 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago could not have carried what is coming. Not because the earlier you was inferior, because the earlier you had not yet been through what was required to build the capacity. The formation was the capacity builder. The trials were the load-bearing exercises that developed the strength needed for the weight of the calling. And the weight of the calling is real. What you have been designated to carry, to build, to influence, to touch, to heal, to teach, to lead, to express, that is not a lightweight. That is not something that can be picked up by anyone who happens to be available. That requires specific preparation, and you have received it. You are not behind. You are built. Now let us talk about what restoration looks like in the practical daily territory of a life. Because I do not want to leave this in the realm of the spiritual and poetic without connecting it to the realm of what is actually going to happen in your days. When the restoration begins to move, here is what you can expect. The ideas that have been circulating at the edge of your awareness, the ones that have felt too large or too risky or too far outside your current ability to execute, will begin to arrive with a specificity they did not have before, not as daydreams, as actionable next steps, not as someday visions, as this week possibilities. The clarity will surprise you, not because the ideas are new, but because the precision of the clarity is new. The instrument, operating at the level it was designed to operate at, will begin receiving at a different resolution. What was fuzzy becomes sharp. What was directional becomes specific. What was inspiring becomes actionable. The connections that are necessary for the next phase of your calling will begin to present themselves in ways that cannot be fully explained by coincidence. The right person will appear in the right context at the right moment. The conversation that opens the door you have been standing at will happen in a setting you did not plan for. The resource that the next step requires will surface from a direction you were not watching. Not because the universe is randomly dispensing gifts, because you were always supposed to receive these things at this exact time, and the time is now. And the positioned you, the formed you, the instrument restored you is now visible and reachable to the things that were always designated for you. The words that you have been trying to find, the precise language for your specific contribution, whether that is in a business, a ministry, a creative work, a relationship, a leadership role, or simply the daily conversation of an ordinary life lived with extraordinary intentionality, those words will begin to come with a fluency they did not have when the hemispheres were not communicating at their designed level. Because language is the output of integrated thought, and integrated thought requires the full instrument, and the full instrument is now, or is becoming, available to you. You were not going to be able to say what you are called to say until you were ready to say it. The readiness has been the curriculum. The graduation is happening. I want to do one more thing before we move toward the closing of this message. I want to give you a practice, something you can take with you, something that takes less than 5 minutes a day, and that will serve you specifically in the transition that is happening in your life right now. It is a practice of alignment, and it has 2 parts. The first part is a clearing. Before you begin anything else in your morning, before you open your first application, before you read your first message, before you check any news or review any obligations, take 60 seconds. Just 60 seconds. Sit still. Take 3 slow breaths and speak 1 sentence silently. You can change the words if you need to, but the sentence I have found to be most effective for this particular season is this: today, I move as the person I am called to be, rather than the person my history says I am. That is it. 1 sentence, 60 seconds. And the reason it works is not mystical. It is neurological. The brain defaults to patterns. It is built for efficiency, and efficiency means repetition, and repetition means the past. The morning is the optimal intervention point because the brain, in the transition out of sleep, is more plastic than at any other point in the waking day. It is more open to the installation of new operating assumptions. The 1 sentence, delivered at the right moment, in the right state of receptivity, sends a signal to the operating system of the brain that today is different. Today, the inputs will be processed through a different filter. Today, the choices will be made from a different reference point. Today, the person who acts is not the person conditioned by the past, but the person chosen for the future. The second part of the practice is an evening accounting. Before you sleep, 1 question, not a performance evaluation, not a review of everything you failed to do. 1 question. Where today did I act from my calling rather than from my conditioning? And then you find 1 answer, just 1, not 10, not a comprehensive list. 1 moment from the day that just happened, where the called version of you was the version that actually showed up. It might be a small moment, a word you chose to say when you could have chosen a smaller word, a decision you made that aligned with who you are called to be rather than who the past says you are, a boundary you held, a generosity you extended, a creative act you allowed through rather than suppressed. Find the 1 moment, acknowledge it. Let the brain do what brains do with acknowledged successes, which is to encode them as patterns and make the repetition of those patterns more natural the next day. Do these 2 things, the morning sentence and the evening accounting. Do them consistently for the next 30 days. Do not evaluate whether they are working by the 3rd day or the 5th day or the 12th day. Evaluate at the end of 30 days. Look at who you were at the beginning and who you are at the end, not in the grand dramatic sense of a complete life transformation, in the specific, measurable, identifiable sense of someone who is living a little more from their calling and a little less from their conditioning, each day, in the small daily choices that are the actual substance of a life. That is where transformation lives, not in the single dramatic moment, in the accumulated weight of the small daily choices made consistently from the right identity. Chosen one, you came to this message today because something called you here. I do not believe in accidental audiences. I do not believe that people who are not meant to receive a specific message find their way to it. The algorithm, or the conversation, or the impulse to search, or the quiet nudge that made you press play on this specific video rather than a different one, that was not random. You were meant to receive what this message carries. And what this message carries is not primarily the practical information, though the practical information is real and useful and worth taking seriously. What this message carries at its core is a reorientation. You were never late. You were being prepared. The preparation is reaching its completion. The restoration is beginning. And the calling that has been real in you all along, through every season that looked like nothing was happening, through every moment of comparison and frustration, and the quiet desperation of not yet, that calling is about to have the expression it was always designed for. I want you to carry this with you, not as a nice sentiment that fades by the end of the day, as a settled knowing that you return to whenever the old story tries to reassert itself, whenever the voice of comparison comes back, whenever a new closed door tries to reinstall the old interpretation, whenever the urgency spikes and the familiar fear arrives with it. Return to what you know now. You are chosen. You are anointed. You are positioned. You are not late. And the calling that is yours is moving toward its expression with the precision of something that has been designed from the beginning to arrive exactly when it arrives. That arrival is now. And you are ready for it, not because you feel ready, not because the circumstances look ready, because the formation has done its work, because the instrument is being restored, because the skills and the character and the clarity and the capacity that the calling requires have been built in the seasons that looked like nothing was happening. You have been made ready by the very seasons that felt most like they were making you irrelevant. That is the nature of divine preparation. That is the signature of a story that is authored by something greater than the circumstances it moves through. The best chapters are always being written in the seasons that feel the most like the story is going wrong. Your story is not going wrong. Your story is building toward its most important chapter. And the most important chapter is not some distant event in a future you cannot see. It is the chapter that begins when you carry out of this conversation a settled knowing of who you are and a willingness to move from that knowing into the everyday choices of your everyday life. The harvest of a long planting season does not arrive gradually. It arrives all at once. The field that has been dark and dormant through the winter does not produce one blade at a time as the spring arrives. It produces in waves, in abundance, in the kind of overflow that causes the farmer to call for help because there is more coming in than one person can carry. Your harvest is coming in waves. You are going to need help carrying it. That is not a prediction. That is the pattern. Formation, hiding, cave, emergence, overflow. That is the pattern of every person who was prepared the long way, the deep way, the way that produces something that lasts rather than something that is impressive and then fades. The lasting is what you were built for, and the lasting is beginning. I want to pray for you now, not in a formal sense, not in a performance sense, but in the genuine sense of a person who has walked with you through this conversation and who wants to speak the blessing over you that this moment deserves. You are not alone in this. The isolation that the cave created, the aloneness of the hidden season, The sense that you were being prepared in a place where no one could see the preparation, and therefore the preparation felt invisible even to you, that isolation was never the full truth. There was a presence with you in the cave. There was a presence in the wilderness. There was a witness to every moment of the formation that felt like the most private and unseen work of your life. And that witness is still present. And that presence is the same one that designated the calling, that set the timing, that allowed the formation, and that is now preparing the conditions for the emergence that has been coming since before you were aware of it. You are seen. You have always been seen. The hiddenness was never absence of witness. It was the gift of a formation that happened in the space created by privacy. Public formation produces performance. Private formation produces depth. You were formed in the deep, and the deep version of you is the version that the calling has been waiting for. Step into the depth of who you are. Not because you finally have everything figured out, because the formation is complete enough, and the instrument is restored enough, and the moment is now enough. Step into it. Chosen one, I want to stay with you a little longer in this space before we move into the final territory of this conversation, because I know that for some of you, the things we have talked about today, the formation, the positioning, the identity declarations, the restoration that is beginning, all of that has landed in a place in you that feels simultaneously true and impossible. True in the way that things you already knew but had not fully articulated feel when they are finally spoken clearly. Impossible in the way that things feel when the distance between where you are and where the truth says you belong is still very visible. And I want to speak to that gap, not to minimize it, not to pretend that the distance is not real, but to help you understand what the distance is actually telling you. The gap between where you are and where the calling is pointing is not evidence that the calling is wrong. The gap is the distance that the formation has been measuring. The formation seasons are the work of closing the gap, not through your own effort alone, but through the combination of your willingness and the preparation that is happening in you whether or not you can see it. The gap closes in the formation, and the formation closes in the appointed time. And the appointed time is the moment that every prior moment was building toward. You are living in the closing of the gap, not the final arrival, the closing, the final approach, the last distance that the formation needs to cover before the expression phase begins. And the closing of the gap feels different from the long middle of the formation season. The closing is where the urgency spikes. The closing is where the sense of emergency arrives, as we discussed at the very beginning of this message. The closing is where the frustration peaks, because the destination is now close enough to feel but still out of reach, in the way that the last portion of a long journey is both the most exciting and the most exhausting. You are in the closing. The urgency is the indicator. The closing is almost complete. I want to talk about what happens in the days immediately after a message like this one, because this is important, and I have seen it enough to know that it is a consistent pattern. In the hours immediately after, there is clarity. There is a sense of settledness, of identity knowing, of the called person being present and available and ready. The things we have declared feel real and accessible and true in a way that produces something that feels almost like momentum. And then, typically within a few days, the old patterns begin to reassert themselves, not dramatically, not in the form of a crisis or a sudden reversal. Quietly, the old voice comes back. The comparison comes back. The sense of lateness comes back. The urgency returns, but in its fear form rather than its calling form. And the person who had the moment of clarity finds themselves wondering whether the clarity was real or whether it was just a temporary feeling that has now passed. This is not failure. This is the nature of how deep patterns shift. They do not shift in a single moment of insight, no matter how powerful the insight. They shift through the repeated choosing of the new truth over the old pattern. Every time the old pattern reasserts itself, the insight creates the possibility. The repeated choosing converts the possibility into a new pattern. The new pattern becomes the new default, and the new default becomes the new life, which means the work that this message has given you is not the understanding itself. The work is the choosing. The daily, undramatic, sometimes inconvenient choosing of the identity of the called person over the identity of the waiting person. The choosing of the morning sentence over the silence of the unconsidered morning. The choosing of the evening accounting over the unconsidered end of the day. The choosing of the next right step over the paralysis of the too large vision. The choosing of openness over the protection of closedness. That choosing is the work, and the work begins today. Let me give you a framework for understanding the terrain of the next 30 days, because the next 30 days are going to determine whether the shift that this message began becomes a permanent new direction or an inspiring interlude that gradually fades back into the familiar. In the first 7 days, you are going to feel the contrast between the new understanding and the old patterns most sharply. This is because the new understanding is recent and therefore present in your awareness, and the old patterns are deep and therefore also present, and the two are in direct contact with each other. The friction is real. The discomfort is real. And the temptation in the first 7 days is to interpret the friction as evidence that the new understanding is not taking hold, when in reality the friction is the evidence that it is. Patterns do not resist things that are not threatening them. The friction is the old pattern recognizing the threat. The threat is real. Stay with it. In days 8 through 21, the friction will decrease, not because the old patterns have surrendered, because you have been consistently choosing the new truth over them, and consistency weakens old patterns while it strengthens new ones. The morning sentence will begin to feel more natural. The evening accounting will begin to surface moments more easily. The smallest steps will begin to accumulate into a visible trail that you can look back on and identify as movement. The trail is the evidence. The movement is real even when it feels slow. In days 22 through 30, something begins to shift in the underlying operating system. The new pattern begins to show up without the conscious choosing. Not automatically, not perfectly, not without backsliding moments, but more frequently than before. The called version of you will be the version that shows up in the ordinary moments of the ordinary day, without the specific, deliberate effort that the first week required. That is the early sign of the new pattern becoming the new default. 30 days, not the completion of the transformation, the establishment of the foundation that the transformation builds on. And I want to say one thing about the backsliding moments, because they are going to happen. And when they happen, the way you respond to them will determine whether they are temporary interruptions or derailments. The choice in the backsliding moment is not the choice to pretend it did not happen. The choice is the choice to return, simply and without drama and without extended self-criticism. Notice the old pattern. Acknowledge it without judgment. Choose the new truth again. Move forward. The return is not weakness. The return is the practice. In the same way that the practice of meditation is not the absence of distraction, but the noticing of distraction and the returning of attention, the practice of inhabiting the called identity is not the absence of old pattern moments, but the noticing of old pattern moments and the returning of choice to the new truth. Every return strengthens the new pattern. Every return is a small victory that the evening accounting should find and acknowledge. Every return is the called version of you asserting itself over the conditioned version, which is the daily work of living from a calling. You are going to do this work. I know that you are. Not because you are unusually disciplined or because you have never struggled to sustain new commitments before. Because the calling in you is real enough that the work of living from it is not optional in the way that ordinary goals can be optional. The calling does not stop being real when you are not actively working toward it. It continues to press. It continues to produce urgency. It continues to create the gap that you feel most acutely when you are furthest from it. The calling will not let you rest in the comfortable distance from it. It will keep pulling you back. And the work of the next 30 days, and the 30 after that, and the 30 after that, is the work of learning to move toward the pull rather than managing the discomfort of resisting it. Move toward the pull. Chosen one, always move toward the pull. The most important sentence you can carry out of this conversation, the one that I want to be the last thing you think about before you sleep tonight, is this: I am not late. I am right on time for what my formation has prepared me for, and my formation is complete enough for the next step, and the next step is the one in front of me, and I am going to take it as the person I am called to be. Today, say it to yourself, not loud enough for anyone else to hear if you are not alone, just in the quiet of the internal voice where the truest things live. Say it in the way that you say the things you know to be true, rather than the things you are hoping are true. Because this is not hope, this is declaration. And the difference between hope and declaration is the difference between a wish and a knowing. You know this. You may not have had the language for it until today, but the knowing was always there. The language is just the thing that lets the knowing move from the inside to the outside, from the spirit into the life. The knowing is yours. The language is now yours. The identity is now more fully yours than it was when you pressed play at the beginning of this message. And the life that the called version of you was always designated to live is more within reach right now than it has ever been before. This is the moment. This is the et. This is the appointed time, and you are in it. Chosen one, we are near the end of this message, and I want to use the time that remains to give you something that is not more information. We have covered a great deal of ground today. You have received more than most people receive from a single encounter with any kind of content. What I want to give you now is not additional content. I want to give you a landing place, a place to settle what has been received, a place to let the understanding become more than understanding, to let it become something lived, something inhabited, something that moves with you when you leave this message and re-enter the world of your ordinary days. Because the greatest danger of a message like this one is not that you will reject it. The greatest danger is that you will receive it enthusiastically in the moment, feel the resonance deeply in the hour after, and then return to the same operating assumptions by the end of the week. Not because the message was not true, because the old patterns are deep and the new understanding needs time and repetition and intention to become the operating reality rather than a fading inspiration. So I want to be deliberate with you in how we close. There are 3 movements in a true closing. The first is release. The second is declaration. The third is activation. And I want to walk through all 3 with you before we are done. The first movement is release. Release is the practice of setting down what was never yours to carry. And some of what you have been carrying in this season of preparation and waiting was real and necessary and formative, but some of it was not yours. And before the restoration can move fully, the things that were not yours need to be set down, not forgotten, not denied, not spiritually bypassed, set down, named, and then released. So I am going to name some things, and as I name them, I want you to make a small internal movement, not dramatic, not performed for anyone, just honest, of releasing them from your grip, setting them on the floor beside you, walking forward without them. Release the timeline you had planned, the one where you would have arrived by a certain age with certain markers of success in place, in a certain sequence that would have made the story feel orderly and efficient. That timeline was never the real one. The real timeline was always the one authored by something that sees more than you see and knows more than you know. Setting down your version of the timeline is not defeat, it is the opening move of alignment. Release the comparison that has been stealing your energy. The assessment of where others are relative to where you are that has been running like background software in your mind, consuming processing power that was meant for your own building. The people you have been measuring yourself against are running their race. Your race is different. Your lane is different. Your finish line is different. And the comparison, whatever discomfort it produced, is done now. Release the shame of the gap, the specific pain of knowing what you were called to and seeing the distance between that knowing and the current expression. The shame of the gap is one of the heaviest things people carry in the waiting season, and it is also one of the most unnecessary. The gap is not evidence of your failure. The gap is the space in which the formation happens. The gap is the training ground. And training grounds are not places of shame, they are places of preparation. You were in preparation. You were never in failure. Release the fear of arriving too late to matter. This is one of the most common fears in the hearts of people who are chosen, who carry a genuine calling, who have been formed through long seasons. The fear that the window has closed, that the moment passed while they were still being prepared, that the people who needed what they carry have already found it elsewhere. This fear is a lie, and it is a lie with a specific name. It is the voice of the enemy of your calling, and it is loud because you are close. Loud opposition is the indicator of imminent arrival. When the fear gets loudest, the breakthrough is nearest. Release the fear, not because it does not feel real, because it is not true. The second movement is declaration. Declaration is the practice of speaking truth about who you are, not who you feel like in the difficult moments, not who the evidence of your circumstances argues for, but who you are at the level that does not change when the circumstances change. Declaration is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is the attempt to feel better by focusing on better feeling thoughts. Declaration is the alignment of your spoken voice with what is already true in the spiritual reality of your identity, so that the gap between what is real and what is manifested begins to close. I am going to make some declarations, and I want you to receive them. Not repeat them out loud if that is not natural to you in this moment. Just receive them. Let them land in the space behind your chest where the recognition happens before the mind has words for it. And notice which ones produce a response in you that feels like remembering something you already know. I am chosen for the specific work of this specific season. My presence in this moment in history is not accidental. I was placed here, in this body, in this family, in this community, with these experiences, for reasons that are real even when they are not yet fully visible to me. I am anointed for what I am called to. The equipment for the assignment is already in me. I do not need to acquire the capacity for my calling from an external source. I need to remove the interference that has been preventing the capacity I already have from operating at its designed level. I am positioned. Where I am is exactly where I need to be to receive what is coming to me next. Not where I thought I would be, not where others think I should be. Where the calling requires me to be, at the precise moment that the calling requires me to be there. I am not late. I am on time, on the appointed time, the moment that has been designated since before my days began. My sense of urgency is not evidence of lateness. My sense of urgency is the internal signal of approaching arrival. I feel urgent because the breakthrough is near, not because I have missed it. I am restored. The interference that has been suppressing my capacity is being removed. The instrument through which my calling expresses is being brought back to its designed function. What was operating at a fraction of its potential is being restored to its full capacity. The restoration is real and it is happening. I am ready, not because I feel ready, not because my circumstances look ready, because the formation has done its work and the appointed time has come, and the version of me that the calling has been building toward is present and available and stepping forward. The third movement is activation. Activation is the movement from receiving to moving, from understanding to acting, from declaration to demonstration. And activation does not require a dramatic first step. It does not require the immediate launch of the grand vision. Activation is simply the decision to begin moving as the person you have declared yourself to be, in whatever the next available moment allows. The next available moment is the one right after this message ends. What is the smallest step that the called version of you would take in the next 24 hours? Not the largest, not the most impressive. The smallest genuine movement in the direction of the calling. The phone call you have been deferring. The creative work you have been holding back from starting. The conversation you have been avoiding that is actually a conversation your calling needs you to have. The decision you have been unable to make because you were operating from the old identity that said you were not ready, and now you know that you are. Take that step, not because everything is in place, not because the full path is visible, because the next step is visible, and the called version of you moves when the next step is visible, regardless of what the steps beyond it look like from here. That is what faith in the calling looks like in its practical daily expression, not the dramatic leap into the unknown, the deliberate movement of one step in the direction of what is real in you, in whatever the next moment provides. That is how the harvest begins. That is how the restoration becomes something you can point to. That is how the formation becomes the foundation of the life that your calling is reaching for. One step, the next available step, taken as the person you have declared yourself to be. Chosen one, before we close, I want to return briefly to something we discussed earlier in this message, because I know that some of you who heard the information about what Dr. Barone and his team discovered are still processing it. And I want to give you one more thought before the door closes on this conversation. The calling in you is real. We have established that. The formation has been real. The preparation has been thorough. But even after a fully complete formation, the expression of a calling requires the instrument through which it operates to be functioning at its designed level. The gifts you carry need a clear channel. The wisdom you have accumulated needs a cognitive system that can hold it and articulate it and apply it with the precision the calling requires. The clarity you have been receiving needs a brain that can receive at the resolution that the calling is transmitting at. That is what the work Dr. Barone has done addresses. Not the calling itself, not the formation, not the character that has been built through the long seasons. The channel, the instrument, the cognitive architecture through which what is in you reaches the world around you, 8 minutes a day, the whole brain, operating as one integrated system rather than two competing hemispheres, the state that children live in naturally, before the education system and the culture and the demands of modern adult life gradually suppress it. the state that the great expressors of human potential in every generation, in science, in art, in leadership, in spiritual contribution, naturally inhabited when they were producing the work that defined their legacy. That state is recoverable. That is what the research shows. That is what the people who have gone through what Dr. Barone built have experienced. And for the chosen one who is standing at the edge of the restoration phase, the one who has done the formation work and is ready for the expression phase, the channel matters as much as the message. If that resonates, the link in the description and the pinned comment below this message is where to go next. If the timing is not right, carry what you have received from this conversation. It is enough to begin. Now, the closing. The closing that this moment deserves is not a summary. Everything has already been said. The closing that this moment deserves is a blessing, and I want to give it to you with the full weight of everything we have walked through together today. This has been a long conversation, long by the standards of the attention economy that wants everything faster and shorter and easier. And the fact that you are here, at the end of it, is itself a form of evidence. Evidence that you are the person this message was intended for. The ones who are not ready for what this message carries tend to leave early. The ones who are staying are the ones whose spirits recognized something in the words and refused to let go of it until the full reception was complete. You stayed, which means you received. And what you received is real, regardless of whether you have fully processed it yet. So here is the blessing. May the clarity that has been stirred in you today become more precise with each day that follows. May the things that have been vague about your calling become specific enough to act on. May the steps that have been invisible become visible. May the connections that are necessary for your next phase arrive in ways that surprise you with their precision. May the resources you need appear from the directions you were not watching. May the words you have been trying to find come with a fluency that causes people around you to recognize that what you carry is different than what most people carry. May the formation seasons not be wasted. May they be the precise preparation that they were designed to be. And may the emergence that is coming be so clearly connected to the preparation that you can look back at the cave and understand it rather than regret it. May the years that felt like delay be reinterpreted in the light of what they were actually building. May the waiting be understood as positioning. May the silence be understood as formation. May the closed doors be understood as direction. And may the appointed time, your arrive with a fullness that accounts for everything the long season cost you. May you be found ready. You have been prepared. You have been positioned. The instrument is being restored. The formation is complete enough. And the calling that is yours is approaching the threshold of its expression with the same certainty that spring approaches the threshold of winter. It cannot be stopped. It is the nature of the season. It is the nature of what you were built for. Walk toward it, not with the confident stride of someone who has nothing to fear, with the settled resolve of someone who knows they are called, who knows they are equipped, who knows the timing is not random, and who has decided that the identity of the called person is the identity they are going to inhabit starting today, in the small daily choices that become the life that the calling was always reaching for. You are not late, chosen one. You are early for what is next, and what is next has been waiting for you. Before you go, I want to invite you to do one thing. Leave a word in the comment section below this message. Not a long response, not a review, not a summary of what resonated. Just a word or a short phrase that represents where you are right now, in this moment, after this conversation, as the person who received this and is now ready to move. Some of you will leave the word Amen, because the declaration of the message has landed as prayer. as agreement, as the spoken yes to what you recognize as truth. Some of you will leave the words I receive, because what matters most right now is not the agreement of the mind, but the reception of the heart, the willingness to let what has been offered actually come in, rather than holding it at the evaluation distance. Some of you will leave, I am ready, because the readiness you declared is the thing you most need to plant in a visible place, a place where you will see it, and where others who are also ready will see it, and recognize that they are not alone. Some of you will leave my et has arrived, because the Hebrew word for appointed time has landed in you today as more than information, because you feel it in the same place where recognition happens, the place behind the chest where knowing lives before words do. The appointed time is not coming. The appointed time is here, and you want to mark the moment. Whatever word or phrase is true for you right now, leave it, not for the algorithm, not for engagement metrics, not for any of the reasons that the attention economy assigns to the act of commenting. Leave it because it is the small external declaration that plants the internal declaration in a visible place. Because what we say out loud about who we are tends to carry more weight than what we only think. Because the community of chosen ones who are on the same journey, who have been in their own caves and their own wilderness seasons, who are also approaching the edge of their own restoration phase, deserves to know that you are here. And if this message has given you something real, if the understanding you are carrying out of this conversation is different from the understanding you came in with, if the weight of the false story is a little lighter and the identity of the called person is a little more settled, I want to ask you to press the like on this message and to share it with someone specific. Not everyone, someone specific. The practice of the like is a practice of agreement. It is the small act of saying, this is true, this mattered, this is worth marking. If it was true, and it mattered, and it is worth marking, mark it, not as a favor to anyone, as a completion of the act of reception. Receiving and acknowledging is different from receiving and staying silent. The acknowledgement, even in the small form of a like, completes the circuit. What is received and acknowledged tends to deepen. What is received and stayed silent about tends to fade. And the sharing. Think of one person right now, not a vague category of people who might benefit, one specific face. The person in your life who has been in their cave the longest, the one who has been carrying the calling and the gap between the calling and its expression with the most visible weight, the one who has been comparing themselves to others and coming up short in their own assessment, the one who is most in need of hearing that they are not late, that they are positioned, that the formation has been real and the restoration is coming. Share this message with that one person, not because you have been asked to grow an audience, because that person deserves to receive what you receive today, and you are in a position to get it to them. And the act of sending it is the act of a person who moves from what they carry rather than only carrying it. The sent message is the first step of the activation we discussed, the calling expressing through you before you even leave this conversation. And if what we explore in these messages resonates with the place you are in your journey, if the combination of spiritual depth and practical understanding is the kind of content your spirit is hungry for, subscribe to be part of what continues to be built here, not as a transaction, as an enrollment in an ongoing conversation between people who take seriously the reality of calling, the reality of preparation, the reality of divine timing, and the reality of what becomes possible when the whole person, spirit, soul, and instrument is operating at its designed level. The messages that are coming are going to go deeper. The territory we have begun to explore in this conversation is not fully covered. There are dimensions of the chosen one journey that we have only touched the surface of today. The identity questions, the practical tools, the understanding of what the formation seasons are actually producing and how to work with them rather than against them, the community of people who are walking the same road at the same level of seriousness, all of that is here and continuing and growing. Be part of what continues. Chosen one, the fact that you are still here at the very end of this message is not a small thing. Most people who begin a message like this do not finish it, not because it is too long, because the parts that produce the most change are also the parts where the old patterns fight hardest to pull the attention away. The discomfort that comes with deep recognition is real, and the impulse to look at something easier is powerful. You stayed through that. You received through that. And the version of you that is sitting here right now, at the end of this conversation, is not the same version that pressed play at the beginning. Something has shifted. Something has been named. Something has been released, and something has been received, and something has been declared, and something has been activated. That is not nothing. That is significant. And the question now is not whether the shift is real. The question is whether you will honor it, whether you will carry it forward into the choices of tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that, until the called version of you becomes the operating default rather than the aspirational possibility. Honor it, not by immediately doing something dramatic, by doing the next right thing as the person you now know yourself to be. The morning sentence, the evening accounting, the smallest step in the direction of the calling, the word in the comment section, the message sent to the one specific person, the like that completes the act of reception. These are small things, but small things done consistently from the right identity become the architecture of a life that looks, to others who did not see the formation, like it happened suddenly and dramatically. You will know better. You will know that it happened one step at a time, one morning sentence at a time, one evening accounting at a time, one small choice at a time, from the identity of the person you were always called to be. That is the life that is being built through you. That is the story that is being written in this season, and it is a good story. I am grateful that you were here today, genuinely grateful, not in the performed way that content creators are sometimes grateful, because gratitude is good for retention. In the way that a person is grateful when they have been trusted with a few hours of the most valuable thing that another person possesses, which is their attention and their time and their willingness to be open to something that matters. You trusted this message with your attention and your time and your willingness. That is an honor, and I do not take it lightly. Go now, chosen one. Go into the remainder of your day or the beginning of your tomorrow as the person you have declared yourself to be. Chosen, anointed, positioned, not late, ready, formed, restored. The Et has arrived. The harvest of the long preparation is beginning, and you were made for exactly this. Walk in it. Chosen one, before the final word, I want to sit with you in one more place. Because the message today has covered a great deal of territory, and there is one dimension of what we have explored that I do not want to leave without giving it the full weight it deserves. We talked about formation. We talked about positioning. We talked about the appointed time and the instrument and the restoration that is beginning in your life. And all of that is real, and all of that matters. But I want to talk about courage. Because the restoration does not happen to a passive person. The restoration is not something that descends on you while you are sitting still waiting for it to arrive. The restoration is something you step into. And stepping into restoration after a long season of waiting and preparation, and the particular weariness that comes from carrying a calling that is not yet fully expressed, requires a specific kind of courage that I do not think is talked about enough. It is not the courage of the dramatic moment, the courage of the person who runs into the burning building. The courage of the person who stands up in the room full of opposition and speaks the truth regardless of the consequences. That kind of courage is real, and it is important, and some of you will be asked for it. But that is not the courage I am talking about right now. The courage I am talking about is the courage to believe again, after disappointment, after the seasons where the promise felt real and then the manifestation did not come, after the moments of near breakthrough that turned into new waiting, after the accumulated weight of not yet, the courage to open again, the courage to hope again, not naively, not without the wisdom that the formation has built into you, but genuinely, with the full weight of your expectation in the direction of what you are called to. This is harder than running into the burning building. The person who runs into the burning building has the adrenaline of the moment. The threat is external and visible, and the response is immediate. The courage to believe again is the sustained, daily, undramatic choice to stay open to the possibility that what you were called to is still coming, that the timing is still right, that the appointed moment is still yours, even when the evidence of your circumstances is telling a different story. That courage is what this moment is asking of you. And I want to be honest with you about something. The courage to believe again is not comfortable. It does not feel like courage in the moment. It feels like vulnerability. It feels like the choice to once again be in a position where things might not go the way you hope. It feels like opening a window that has been keeping you protected from the cold. The cold is real. The discomfort of openness after long closedness is real. And the person who has been hurt by hope before has very good reasons to stay closed. But a closed person cannot receive what is coming. And what is coming to you is worth the vulnerability of being open. The harvest cannot enter through a closed door. The restoration cannot land in a heart that has locked itself against the possibility of it. The ET, the appointed time, requires your participation, not your performance. Your participation, the genuine, honest, not fully certain but willing openness of a person who has decided that the calling is real enough to be open to it one more time. That decision is the activation, not the dramatic launch of the grand vision, the quiet, internal, daily renewed decision to stay open, to keep the window of expectation cracked, not because you are certain, but because the calling is real, and the preparation has been real, and the appointed time is real, and you are going to honor all of that by remaining available to receive what is coming. Stay open. Chosen one. Stay open. I want to tell you something about the people who have walked through the kind of restoration we have been describing. Not famous people. Ordinary people who were in their caves and their wilderness seasons and their seasons of not yet, and who came through to the other side. People who, if you described their story from the outside, would sound like the subjects of miracles, and they would tell you that the miracles were real. And they would also tell you that the miracles required their cooperation, not their perfection, their cooperation. Cooperation with the timing, not fighting the appointed time because it does not match the planned time. Cooperation with the formation, not resisting the preparation seasons because they do not look like progress. Cooperation with the instrument work. The willingness to address what has been limiting the channel through which the calling expresses, not because they had no doubts, but because the calling was loud enough that the doubts, though real, were not the loudest voice. The calling was louder, and they followed the louder voice. And the stories on the other side of the following are the kinds of stories that cause the people who know them to use words like transformation, turnaround, breakthrough, and what happened to you. What happened to you is going to be that kind of story. Not because I am predicting your future, because I know what the calling does when the person who carries it cooperates with the preparation and steps into the restoration with the courage to believe again. It produces stories worth telling. It produces lives worth living. It produces contributions worth making. It produces the specific, irreplaceable, non-generic impact that only the fully expressed version of a chosen person can produce. Your story is worth telling. Live it. There is a dimension of the waiting season that almost no one talks about. The gifts that the waiting season gives to the person who survives it. Not just the formation of character, though that is real. The specific gifts that can only be received in the hidden season and that become the foundation of the kind of contribution that lasts. The first gift is empathy. The kind of empathy that cannot be taught and cannot be performed and cannot be faked by someone who has not lived through the specific pain of carrying a real calling and seeing it consistently unrealized. The people you are going to reach in your life, the ones who most need what you carry, the ones who are in their own caves right now, looking at the walls and wondering when the movement begins. Those people are going to be reached by you specifically because you were there, because you know what those walls feel like. Because the words you speak about their waiting are not the words of someone describing it from the outside. They are the words of someone who was in it and made it through and is now on the other side of the making it through, which is the only place from which you can tell them that the cave ends. The second gift is discernment, the ability to identify what is real and what is noise, the ability to know the difference between the genuine urgency of the calling and the manufactured urgency of comparison and fear, the ability to tell the difference between the voice of the calling and the voice of the culture that wants you to move faster and produce more and perform louder. The formation seasons, with all their slowness and their silence and their apparent stillness, calibrate the instrument of discernment in ways that the faster seasons cannot. You have been calibrated. You can hear things now that you could not hear before. You can identify things now that were invisible to you before. That calibration is a gift that only the long, slow, hidden seasons produce. The third gift is patience with others. The person who has been through the waiting season, who has lived inside the cave rather than looking at it from a comfortable distance, has something available to them that the person who moved too fast does not have. The deep and genuine patience for the person who is still in the waiting. The ability to sit with someone who is in the cave and not immediately try to get them out of it, because you know that the cave is also forming them, and that some exits are premature, and that the most useful thing is sometimes not the solution, but the presence of someone who knows, the presence of someone who was there, the presence of someone who can say, with the full weight of personal experience, I know this cave, and I also know that it has an exit, and I am here with you until the exit reveals itself. You are that person for someone. You are that presence for someone who needs it. Your cave was not just your education. Your cave was your credential. Your cave was the training that qualifies you to stand with someone else in theirs. The fourth gift is the unshakable knowing, the deep, settled certainty about the reality of the calling that cannot be produced by success alone. The person who moves quickly from calling to expression without the long formation may have great confidence, but confidence and certainty are different things. Confidence is built on evidence. Certainty is built on encounter. The encounter with the reality of the calling in the absence of external confirmation, in the silence of the cave. In the long seasons where nothing is happening except the inner work of formation, that encounter produces a certainty that does not require external validation to sustain itself. You have that certainty. You may not have felt it as a gift while you were inside the formation, but it is a gift. It is the foundation that will hold when the opposition comes, and it will come when the doubts of others arrive. and they will arrive. When the circumstances of the new season look nothing like the vision of the destination, and they often will not. The certainty that was built in the cave is the anchor that holds in the storm that sometimes comes with the emergence. Your certainty is your anchor. Do not trade it for the faster-looking story of someone who has not been where you have been. Chosen one, I have one last thing to say to you, and it is the simplest thing, and it is also the most important thing, and it is the thing that everything we have talked about today is ultimately in service of. You matter, not in the generic everyone matters sense that has been so often repeated that it sometimes lands with very little weight. In the specific, irreplaceable, the composition cannot be complete without this exact note sense. The specific work that your life is designed to produce cannot be produced by any other life. The specific people your presence is meant to reach cannot be reached in the same way by any other presence. The specific combination of experience, formation, calling, gift, and character that is assembled in you is not duplicated anywhere else in the world. It was never duplicated. It was always only you. And that you, the specific, irreplaceable, formed, anointed, positioned, chosen you, is what the world is waiting for. Not a performance of you, not an imitation of someone else who seems to be doing the calling more efficiently or more successfully or more publicly. The actual you, the fully expressed, instrument restored, formation complete, courage renewed, identity settled you. That version of you, showing up consistently in the small daily choices, the morning sentences and the evening accountings, the smallest steps taken from the right identity, the words spoken from the depth of the calling rather than the surface of the performance. That is what the world has been waiting for. And the world does not have to wait much longer, because you are here, and you are ready, and the Et has arrived. Go, chosen one. Go as the person you are. Go as the person the formation made you. Go as the person the calling is reaching for. Go as the person the world is waiting for. Go with the courage to believe again. Go with the settled knowing of who you are. Go with the restored instrument and the formation-built character and the appointed time certainty. Go with the understanding that you are not late, that you were never late, that the urgency you feel is the signal of arrival and not the evidence of missing it. Go and carry what you carry. Go and say what you are called to say. Go and build what you are called to build. Go and reach the ones who are waiting for what only you can bring them. Go and live the story that the long formation has been preparing. Go and let the harvest of the long planting season come in with the abundance that makes the years of waiting make sense. Go. You have everything you need. You have always had everything you need, and now you know it. Chosen one, I want to give you one more gift before this conversation closes. Not information, not a tool or a practice, a perspective, a way of seeing the season you are in that will serve you not just today, in the clarity of this moment, but in the difficult days that are coming, because difficult days are coming. The emergence phase, as we have discussed, does not mean the end of difficulty. It means a different kind of difficulty. And having the right frame for the difficulty of the emergence makes all the difference. Here is what the emergence season looks like from the inside. It looks like everything happening at once. The opportunities that were not arriving for years suddenly arrive in clusters. The decisions that were simple in the formation season become complex because more is now on the line. The relationships that were manageable at one level of your life become more demanding at the next level. The gifts that were dormant begin to express in ways that require more of you than dormancy did. The visibility that was absent in the cave becomes present in the emergence, and visibility has its own specific demands and its own specific vulnerabilities. The emergence is better than the cave. Let me be clear about that. The emergence is what the formation was building toward, and the restoration is enabling, and the calling is reaching for. The emergence is the purpose of the long preparation, and it is better. It is more alive. It is more congruent with who you are. It is more filled with the sense that you are doing what you were made to do. And it is also more demanding, more exposed, more requiring of the character that the formation built, more dependent on the settled identity that the declarations are establishing, more in need of the whole brain clarity that the instrument restoration is providing. The emergence needs everything that the formation built, and it uses all of it consistently in the daily navigation of a life that is now moving at the speed of a calling rather than the slow speed of a waiting season. The formation prepared you for the emergence. The formation was not more than you needed. The formation was exactly what you needed. One of the things that surprises people in the emergence season is the people around them. Some of the people who were supportive in the cave will struggle with the emergence, not because they do not love you, because the emergence changes the dynamic. Because the version of you that is now operating at a higher level of expression is a different version than the one they were comfortable with. Some people are comfortable with your potential. The actual expression of the potential can be more complicated. I am not telling you this to create suspicion of the people in your life. I am telling you this so that when the dynamic shifts, you understand what is happening. The calling does not produce universal applause from the people who know you best. It sometimes produces discomfort from the people who are still in their own formation seasons, looking at your emergence as an implicit comment on their own timing. It sometimes produces distance from people who were anchored to the waiting version of you, because the waiting version was less threatening to the version of themselves they were comfortable being. None of this is a reason to diminish the emergence to make others comfortable. The emergence is for the people who are waiting for what you carry, not for the people who are comfortable with what you have been holding back. The specific gift of your calling, expressed at its full level through the restored instrument, is going to reach people you have not yet met, who are in need of exactly what you carry, who cannot be reached by anyone else in the same way. Those people are waiting, and your decision to step fully into the emergence, even when the people currently around you are not all comfortable with it, is the decision that makes your reaching them possible. The reaching is worth the discomfort of the dynamic shift. The calling is worth more than the comfort of those who prefer you small. And the people who are truly for you, the people who are genuinely aligned with your calling and your emergence, will not pull away when you step fully in. They will move closer. They will recognize the version of you that is emerging as the version they always knew was there. They will be the first to name it, to celebrate it, to want to be in the proximity of it. And those relationships, the ones that deepen rather than thin in the emergence, those are the relationships that the calling produces and sustains. Those are the people who will be part of the harvest season, not as observers of it, but as collaborators in it. They are coming toward you even now, while you are still in the closing of the formation. They are already moving in your direction. The emergence will make the meeting possible. Look for them. Receive them when they arrive. There is something I want you to understand about the nature of legacy. Not legacy in the grand, monument-building sense. Legacy in the daily, ordinary, this life touched, that life sense. That is the actual substance of what a calling produces. Every person who receives what your calling has to give and is changed by it, even slightly, even in a way that neither of you can fully measure, becomes a point of transmission. What they received from you, they carry into the lives they touch. And what those lives carry, they carry into the lives they touch. The ripple does not stop at the edge of your direct influence. The ripple continues. The calling that expresses through you fully, through the restored instrument, from the settled identity, with the courage that the formation built, produces a contribution that is wider than you will be able to see from inside your own life. You will not see the full measure of what your calling produces. You will see some of it. You will receive accounts of some of it, conversations and messages and moments where a person tells you what the thing you said or built or created or gave changed the direction of their life. And those accounts will be real, and they will matter, and they will be worth every season of the formation that produced the capacity to produce them. But the full measure will be invisible to you. It will extend into generations and geographies and conversations you will never witness. It will reach people who will never know your name, but who will carry something of what you carried into the world, passed through the lives of people who did know your name, and who were changed, and who changed others, and who changed others still. That is the nature of a calling expressed fully. That is what you are being prepared to produce. That is what the Et is for. So when the days are difficult, and some of them will be difficult, when the emergence feels harder than the cave in ways you did not anticipate, when the visibility is uncomfortable and the demands are higher than the formation fully prepared you for, when you are in the middle of something that the calling required of you that is larger than anything you have been asked to carry before, remember this: what you are carrying is not just yours. What you are building is not just for you. The contribution that your fully expressed calling makes to the world is not a transaction between you and the people directly in front of you. It is an investment in a ripple that you will not be able to see the full extent of from inside your own life. Carry it well, not because it is easy, because it is real. And because the people at the far end of the ripple, the ones you will never meet in circumstances and generations and geographies you cannot imagine from here, are depending on the cold version of you showing up consistently, day after day. From the settled identity, with the restored instrument, with the courage to believe again. They are depending on you. Show up for them. Show up every day as the person you were called to be. Let the calling be louder than the conditioning. Let the identity be more real than the history. Let the appointed time be received with the full openness that it deserves. And let the harvest come in with the abundance that the long planting season has earned. You are not alone in this. You have never been alone in this. And you will not be alone in what comes next. The presence that was with you in the cave is with you in the emergence. The witness that saw the formation is the same witness that is present for the restoration. The one who designated the calling is the same one who is orchestrating the timing of its expression. You are held, you are carried, you are seen. And what you are walking into is not a territory you are entering without guidance. You are guided. You are held. You are chosen.